Hello, and welcome to Media-eval, a medieval pop culture podcast, where we talk about how medieval and medieval-inspired movies, TV, and books depict the medieval world. What did they get right? What did they get wrong? And what do they tell us about how modern people see the medieval past? I'm Sarah Ifft, a medieval historian, and today I'm joined by two guests. I have Nicole Kalenich with her first appearance on this podcast, and Ollie Brady with his not first appearance on this podcast, to talk about recent adaptation, The Green Knight, for the holiday episode, because Green Knight is a Christmas movie. So first of all, hello, Nicole, Ollie, welcome.
Hello.
I'm just disgusted I'm relegated to second. What's going on there?
Yeah, it's just alphabetical.
Fine.
I mean, Ollie, do you want to tell the listeners about yourself first, in case any of them don't know who you are?
I used to be on the podcast a lot, and then Sarah kicked me off, so it's okay. I don't feel bitter about it at all, and how it's much more successful now. Whatever.
As a result of my coup. And Nicole, would you like to introduce yourself to the listeners?
Hello, I live in the same city as Sarah, which is why I went to see this film with her, and she has strong-armed me into being on the podcast. So, hello.
Exactly. We got to firsthand and on a large screen experience the most cum I have ever actually seen in a studio film.
Well, and the theater was mostly empty, so you and I are sitting next to each other, and then a man by himself decides to sit 2 seats away from you.
Because of course he does.
Yeah, completely empty theater.
Thanks, dude. And also like during COVID too, it's like, you don't want to space yourself out a little bit?
No, not at all.
No. So today's film, The Green Knight, came out in 2021 and stars Dev Patel as Gawain, Sarita Chaudhry as Morgan Le Fay, Ralph Ineson as the Green Knight, Elisa Vikander as Essel/the Lady, Joel Edgerton as the Lord, and fun fact, he also played Gawain in the 2004 King Arthur. So I don't know, maybe that's significant. It means something. It also has Sean Harris as King Arthur and Kate Dickie as Guinevere. And once I remembered that she is indeed Lysa Arryn, the person who we meet breastfeeding her 9-year-old child.
Yes.
It's the creepiest thing in the world.
Yes. Oh, and I couldn't remember, I'm like, why is her face familiar? Like, I instantly disliked her and I didn't know why, but this makes complete sense.
Yes. I'm like, why does she creep me out just like instinctively? And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that's it. It was that.
Right. She's missing the 9-year-old breastfeeding. All right.
It's a fun addition to the Guinevere story. So the first proper section, the enumeratio, or I'm sorry, Ollie, would you like to bring us in to our first proper section?
Enumeratio. I've never done that with a guest before, Sarah. It's actually more embarrassing.
So yes, he used to do that on every episode, and now I have to not sing because I'm absolutely not doing that myself.
I should have put that clause into my contract when you bought me out.
You mean that I had to actually like edit in your singing?
Yeah, but you had to put it in so that people wouldn't forget all you.
Yes, we've got a creepy voice talking about Arthur, but then how this isn't about Arthur, this is a different story. We also have the first reference in the closed captioning to unsettling music that is playing and continuing to play. If over the course of this film I had taken a shot every time it referred to unsettling music, I would have died.
So I know Sarah isn't necessarily big into video games, and by not necessarily big into video games, I know she doesn't play them.
She does not.
Nicole, do you ever play?
I played in high school, and now I'm one of the many millions who just spends time relaxing on Animal Crossing. Yes.
A fantastic game for people. The music is so eerily reminiscent of Dark Souls soundtrack.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's just in the background, and there's a particular was going to say fingering, but that, that's a dodgy
But
words
that
to be
matches.
using.
No.
It was coming on. But
In
there's
this film.
Yes,
there's
that
just
absolutely works.
random little notes that just pop in that are identical to the Dark Souls soundtrack, a game that I have played a lot of. And it would just, every single time it would pop in, it would just get me. I'm like, this is, I'm okay. And like just when you're so on edge for that particular type of music, it's just such a fantastic thing to listen to. So yeah, I really enjoy it, although it is ominous.
Unsettling.
And unsettling, yeah.
We meet Gawain himself, who seems to be extremely hungover, and his prostitute girlfriend, Essel. I'm going to be honest, I cannot stand her. I absolutely can't stand her. She's clearly supposed to be charming. I don't think she's charming. I just don't like her. I just don't.
No, she didn't strike me as charming. She actually slid off my brain after the movie. I remember her more as the lady than I do as the prostitute.
In real life, or just the character in the...
Just the character.
Who I will add is not in the poem.
Oh, so that's why you don't like her. It's not realistic.
Exactly.
It's a different section, Sarah. We'll get to Veritas et falso later.
But I just find all of her mannerisms vaguely unpleasant. And when she's the lady, she also has some off-putting ways of behavior, but then it's kind of cool and eerie, and here it's just irritating.
I don't like her haircut.
I also don't like her haircut.
No, same.
Yeah, it's very Playmobil. I was going to say it's Lego, but it's not even as good as a Lego haircut. It's a knockoff Dutch version.
Yeah, so she just as a character is not working for me, but she does manage to get Gawain up in time to, I guess, go to church because it's Christmas. Yay! Merry Christmas, everybody. It's
a Christmas movie, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that it starts with him in a brothel on Christmas morning, that's exactly how I remember my version of The Green Knight.
I was going to say, is this exactly how you remember your Christmas morning?
Well, just in there getting some Spanish small dishes. That's all I wanted to do.
No, I was just going to say, you know how I have the game? Like I have the RPG for this that we all need to play. I haven't even
yes.
it up. I wonder if this starts at the brothel as well.
I hope so. But yeah,
even if it doesn't, it will.
We'll make it. Yeah,
it will. It will now. Yeah. But yeah, there is like 99% more brothel in this movie than there is in the book Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. After the trip to church, Gawain then goes back home. His mother makes fun of him because he smells like he's been drinking all night. And he gets dressed up and he goes off to court, where we get to meet King Arthur and listen to Arthur calling him Garwin for the rest of this movie. Such
a bizarre choice.
It's very weird. But yeah, so Arthur is excited to spend some time chatting with him. And I need to point out also a line, which was not apparent to me when I was watching this film in theaters, but that became very apparent to me because I'm 95 and I watch all movies with closed captioning, that he described her, according to the closed captioning, I paused it and checked, when saying, "Oh, you're my sister's son," he described Gawain as queefed from her womb.
Oh yeah, he definitely said that.
Technical.
From her womb.
That's the technical term. I don't know why you're weird about it.
Just perfectly normal word.
Yeah.
Is that not how everyone describes everything that comes out of somebody? It was just queefed from you.
That's how I usually describe birth. Yeah, no, I'm just commenting on it that good for them. Good for them.
I don't even describe just birth as that. Like the other day I was eating and I got a shock and some food fell in my mouth and I was like, oh my god, I queefed a bit of that burger out. Like it's just how you describe anything that's removed from the human body.
Just a perfectly normal word choice. Just a perfectly normal word.
Gerwin, you've been queefed from my sister's womb.
Good God. So Arthur, I guess, in the last 30 years or however old he's supposed to be, has not bothered getting to know his nephew, but wants to now. So he asks him to tell him a tale of himself. And Gawain basically says, there's nothing interesting about me. I have no tales to tell. But Guinevere says, yet. You have no tales to tell yet. He will by the end of this movie.
Yeah, he says that, and what has he been doing apart from Alicia Vikander? But
I think that.
Yeah, that's all he's been doing.
I mean, because he's not a knight. He
No.
wasn't. There's a war later that they referred to that he was not involved in. I think he's just been sitting around going to brothels and drinking too much and fucking Alicia Vikander.
So on Christmas Day, as we all know, famously, King Arthur definitely celebrated Christmas. When he brings him up to sit at the empty chair, Sarah, whose chair is that?
Was that Lancelot's chair?
Well, I was thinking Lancelot's. Then I was thinking it could be Mordred's.
Oh, maybe. Well, especially because they make a change in this film. I'm sorry, I can't not talk about all of the many, many changes that this makes from the poem, even though I'm going to get into more than a later section. But because they make Gawain's mother Morgan Le Fay, but then also, all right, so Mordred and Gawain are actually both supposed to be the children of somebody named Morgause, but increasingly in modern Arthurian adaptations, they turn Morgause they kind of combine Morgause and Morgaine, and so Morgaine is both of their mothers, but Mordred does not exist in this, so he's like the sibling who is linked with this, who is maybe kind of linked in this kind of questionable way, because I feel like there is a sort of weird implication that maybe Arthur is his father. I mean, maybe I'm making that up, but I don't understand why he's the heir.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. When he starts talking about how he didn't know him and he wishes he had gotten to know him and he's going to make up for it now and come and sit beside me at the table. Like, it really does feel like you're the next person in line. And
yeah, I was just like, why is he going to be the new king? That was very confusing.
Yeah, so my assumption is that it is hinting at a sort of replacing him with Mordred, and a sort of implication that he is actually Arthur's son. But his mother isn't here for this because his mother's at home practicing witchcraft.
That also, right. So obviously, because she's billed as Morgan Le Fay, she's going to be doing a bit of the old witchcraftery as Morgan or Morgana, as I'm always going to insist on calling her, is inclined to do. But it just felt like such a leap from grounded, we're in a brothel, we're going down to talk to a really old version of King Arthur, also in the background, I'm doing proper magic and I'm magicking up a magic right now. Like, it just feels tonally weird.
Yeah, and there's so much about this movie in general that is just aggressively not explained. And including that, there's bits of Arthur's speech that it seems like Morgan is actually mouthing the same thing. So it's like, is she mind controlling Arthur? What is this whole situation?
Yeah, no, I agree, Sarah. It's just this weird, what's going on here? Is this what I originally had thought was that this was Dev Patel starting to tell a story. And that everything that happened from that point forward was him coming up with a story, because Arthur says, just before the Green Knight shows up, anybody sitting around this table, tell me a story, whether it's true or not, to keep me entertained on this Christmas morning. So I was taking this to be a made up story that that Gerwin was telling, but it doesn't seem it seems to be we're supposed to take this at face value, that Morgana or Morgan Le Fay set this up.
Yes.
Yeah, she seems obsessed with but it's confusing to me because I'm like, okay, she really wants him there. She's very specific about it, but then the magic she's doing just seems to not be at all in his favor.
I have no idea what her motivation is. Yeah. Literally none.
I was like, oh, she's doing magic. I'm like, this doesn't seem to be helping him. I don't know what the point of this is.
It's making his life considerably worse.
Right? Unless she's just it's like somebody who's still living with their parents at 30 and she's like, let me teach you a lesson so you get your life together.
Get the fuck out of my house.
We want you to move out.
Please get out of my basement.
It's a very elaborate spell to get rid of her adult son.
You're working at the Piggly Wiggly all next year. Get down and take your job now. Okay, Mom, don't worry about it. I'll get a car.
So his job is not, in fact, at a Piggly Wiggly. It involves a figure called the Green Knight, who in this version is basically a tree dude. And
played by Ralph Ineson,
yes.
Who we've talked about before, Sarah. He's in First Night as
yes, he's the bad guy, right?
No. Oh yeah, he is. No, he's the guy that started. His name's Ralph. Yeah, he's one of the bad guys. He's not the main guy. He's one of them. And then like he's also in the version of Robin Hood, the Ridley Scott version. That's your favorite movie, and I don't know if anyone's ever watched the British version of The Office, but he's David Brent's best buddy, like the traveling salesman. He's Finchy.
Yeah.
That's who he is. So like he's an institution in over here. Like Ralph Ineson is in so many movies, so many TV shows that I've watched over the years, and he's always good. Like he's always compelling, and I think he's very good in this.
He's got a minor bit in Game of Thrones too. I think he's Dagmar Cleftjaw is I think his name.
What an awesome name.
Cleftjaw. I think he's maybe one of the Iron Islands people.
He's in Harry Potter as well. In the last two movies.
Yeah, he's the Caro brother.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, he normally seems to play somebody who is a bad guy.
Well, he's like 6'4", built like a tank, and his voice is distinctively deep and menacing.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get you.
Yeah, no, I think he's good. So, and he delivers his message, which is also, it's all very, very clear, right, that this is all being like, that he is being like completely controlled essentially by Morgaine. And so he delivers his message in the form of a letter, but instead of just speaking, it's that he like hands over the letter and then Guinevere reads it, but then it like comes out of her mouth as this like creepy man's voice, which I guess is actually, I assume, Ralph Ineson's voice.
No, it's Dave Lowry, the director's voice, and his wife's voice.
Oh.
So it's a combination of a male and female voice. And
that's fascinating.
And I'm not sure why they went with that route, because it would make more sense for it to be Sarita Chowdhury and Ralph Ineson's voices.
Yeah. But I guess that would be a giveaway if everybody recognized her voice.
Her voice as well. Like when she speaks later on as the creature she turns into. Like immediately I was like, oh, well, that's what that thing has been doing this last 25 minutes of unexplained reason for it to be there.
Yep. So he is there to invite the bravest of the knights to a friendly, just normal Christmas game. This is how I assume Christians celebrate their holidays. This seems like just what people do on Christmas. That somebody should attempt to land a blow on him, and that then they will bind himself to seek out the Green Knight in the Green Chapel in 1 year and allow himself to be struck in return. Arthur initially is like, I guess I can do it. And then is like, actually, I am too decrepit for this. And Gawain volunteers, which in the context of the film seems clearly like him making up for the fact, right, that he has nothing to tell about himself, that he has no stories, that he is essentially kind of creating a story about himself by volunteering to do this.
And do you think his mother intended for him to be the one who volunteers, or did the mother actually want King Arthur to do it so that King Arthur would know he's going to die a year later and have to get his affairs in order or something? Because
that's a good question. That would make it make more sense.
She didn't seem like she was horrified at what happened.
True. Yeah, because she seems very kind of pleased with the whole situation, right?
Well, like maybe it did start that way. Maybe she was like, yeah, I'm going to tell Arthur he's going to die in a year, but also my lazy son now has a year to figure out what he's going to do with his life. So win-win.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just the reason I was thinking it might not have been the plan for Gawain to do this, is because of what happens directly afterwards with the sash and making this, because that seems like it was an afterthought. And if she'd been expecting this to happen, she might not necessarily, or maybe she just wasn't expecting Gawain to do the absolutely stupid thing he does in this scene.
Well, yeah. It's like, wait, you've shown no initiative in your entire life. Why are you suddenly showing it now? God damn it.
I was getting rid of the king so you could just move in, but no, now you have to go fight a Green Knight.
So the fight happens, which essentially is that the Green Knight lays down his axe, and the axe basically has like creates moss, essentially, that like moss kind of spins out from all of the places in the ground where he is in that are touching the axe. And Gawain is skeptical of what is happening here, but as the Green Knight bends his head, but finally says, "Ugh, fine," and goes ahead and strikes it off and starts yelling about how cool he is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nicole, when you were watching this, what did you think when you saw Sir Gawain? He's not even Sir Gawain, he's not a knight yet. Cutting the head off, when he's told specifically, whatever you do to me, I'm going to do the exact same to you in a year.
I mean, honestly, when he did it, I was like, what a dumb asshole. Like, that's all I immediately thought.
It just makes no sense whatsoever. He's told it's a game. He's told exactly what the parameters of the game is, and he still cuts the head off the Green Knight.
It's like, you're like, oh, if you do something to me, I'll do it back to you. I just set you on fire. I'm like, that's fine.
You're right. It's like, give him like a light cut on the shoulder.
Yeah.
But I'd be like, cool, see you anywhere.
Well, and especially when he's like, never forget what happened here. I'm like, what happened? An idiot made a stupid choice and we all got to watch it?
It's just such a bizarre thing for him to cut the head, and the head comes off. It's like a delightfully brutal scene. Blood sprays, it's like collecting in places, and it's like, oh, this is cool. And then the Green Knight stands up with its head cut off, picks up its head, says never forget, and then just heads out the door, as you do.
I would like to note, related to future content in this movie, that there is a specific term in Greek, cephalophore, which means head carrier, which typically refers to saints who are depicted as carrying their own severed heads, but it also applies to the Green Knight.
I mean, Sarah, you don't have to explain the Greek to myself and Nicole. But thank you for telling the listeners at home what cephalophore means.
Exactly, for the listeners, making sure that they've got their Greek. So, and he strides out laughing maniacally as he goes, and everybody just kind of awkwardly claps, which I love.
It's such a genuinely weird scene. Like, it's a movie full of right. So, I know I've said this to you, Sarah. My best friend worked in this, right? He was second assistant director or second unit assistant director, I think is maybe what the exact title. So I don't want to come across like I'm being mean to TJ. TJ, you know I love you. You're my boy. There's so much of this movie is so pretentious and has its head really firmly lodged up its own backside, that this idea of, are you unsettled because of the music and because of what you just saw? Are you unsettled yet? Well, don't worry, we're going to unsettle you some more.
This movie is working so hard to make us unsettled.
Do you remember did anyone see the trailer for this before it came out? Because that was a real big switch. I was like, ooh, this is going to be like 80s style, really great return to fantasy. There's like shades of like Labyrinth and things like that. I was very excited, and then I'm sitting there, I'm like, there's 3 pages of dialogue in this entire movie, and I'm just supposed to be blown away by like the things I'm seeing on screen. I'm like, I could be home right now.
Yeah, and it's just eerie visual after eerie visual, and it feels like it's just trying so hard to be like, look, symbolism.
Yeah, I'm an artistic film, and I was like, yeah, I get it. I'm not an idiot. Thank you.
It's deep, guys. It's deep.
It's deep. Yeah, and it's trying so hard to be deep, but none of it actually feels like it means anything or makes any sense.
Well, and then, I've heard they're like, well, the Green Knight's like the Green Men, which is part of Celtic tradition, also known as the Holly King. And, he dies so that the Oak King can take over for spring and the cycle repeats. And I'm like, okay. So just so many layers of symbolism because we just can't understand, what's exactly in front of us. You need to spell it to me in 1,000 different ways.
Sarah,
and
or
it's also
Nicole, I wish you had said that because you just reminded me. It's my goddamn year to kill the Holly King. Oh, it's just another thing to do.
It's coming up. It's coming up.
Oh, it's January. I have to do it. Like, god damn it.
And it's also just like, even when I find the symbolism interesting, and much of it is stuff that I find interesting because it is like referring to medieval things, and I'm like, ooh, that's fun.
Mm-hmm.
But even when I find the symbolism interesting, the symbolism seems to really not actually be there in service of a narrative.
No,
it seems like the narrative is kind of half-heartedly there to provide a justification for the layers of symbolism.
Yes.
Which is ultimately not super successful. The year passes.
It's a jump cut.
Pretty much how it is in the movie. The year passes, watch some puppets, and then boom, we're back.
Yeah, well, there's this thing that's like a too quick year, and then we see various things that happen. He chats with Essel because they have to make us look at her again. He gets drunk. Somebody calls his mother a witch. They fight. He chats to Arthur. Arthur's like, you actually have to like leave and do this. And he's like, I thought you loved me, fake dad. Basically.
What I think is weird about it is somebody calls his mother a witch and he's like grumpy and acting like weird about it. His mother is a witch. She's quite clearly a witch. She's doing everything a witch would do. And like, unless Gawain has his head again buried between those firm butt cheeks of his, how does he not spot that his mother's clearly a witch?
He could clearly be an idiot. He could actually be an idiot.
Yeah, very shortly after he beats up somebody or tries to for saying his mother's a witch, his mother gives him a girdle that she says, I made it with magic so that nothing will happen to you and you don't die. I made this with magic like a witch would do. Yeah.
This no ill can befall you as long as it is around your waist, grin.
Right?
And he's like,
it's like the lie of I made this with love. He just thinks it's a lie.
He's like, oh, mom, that's sweet. That's so sweet. Right. It also doesn't even work, by the way. So anyway.
Well, I mean, does it not work?
Okay, I'm going to argue that this is getting ahead, but in the bit in the woods with the brigands, I'm going to argue that if the belt actually did anything, they shouldn't have been able to like trap him and get it off him in the first place.
I mean, I don't think, okay. A seatbelt only works as long as, I'm not doing the stupidest things that I can in my car. The seatbelt can't stop me from doing things. So I consider it like that. It's preemptive, but
that's fair.
The magic only goes so far. It's not sentient.
I don't know, Nicole. I was in my car driving today while making some waffles, and don't ask why. And I accidentally slipped in some of the waffle batter and put my hand onto the hot waffle iron. Didn't even get burned, and I put it down to the fact I was wearing a seatbelt. So.
All right, argument.
Just for the record, anyone who's listening, I wasn't. That was a made-up story. I don't have a waffle iron in my car.
What? Like, I have a panini press. It's different.
I thought everybody
so good.
Doesn't everybody in Ireland have a waffle iron in their car? I'm gonna start creating this stereotype now.
Well, if we did, we wouldn't call it a waffle iron anyway. We'd say waffle maker. Like we wouldn't try and make it sound cooler.
So Gawain's got his girdle. He gets some other fun stuff. And I will say, actually, the kind of detailed, like everybody like handing him things and him like getting ready to go, and he gets a cool shield and all of that. The details are different, but the kind of concept of the attention to this is very much taken from the book. And the prayer that Guinevere says is that like of the like 5 things and all of that, that's actually is also basically taken from the book.
Now, the next scene, the one directly following this, is the first scene that genuinely annoyed me in the movie, right? And it's him leaving the city on a horse, and he's riding the horse down a dusty white road, So I'm assuming it's meant to be sand or some sort of chalk on it. And there's some kids running behind him. And that scene felt like it took several days of my life. There's no reason for, like, we watch him literally walk a horse for 2.5 to 3 minutes.
So long.
Why?
And then, yeah, I don't know. But, I will say that scene, though, paled in comparison for me to the next scene, which is then he's like fingering this bell that he got from his prostitute girlfriend. And then he like thinks back to this like whole like meeting with her where she apparently is like, oh, like, you want to like marry me and make me your queen. And I'm just like, no, this isn't how it works. Are you stupid?
Well, I mean, he basically tells her, I can't make a hoe into a housewife. He's like, I need a real lady, not you.
Yeah, which, like, I'm sorry, that's how things work. It's I don't know what century this is supposed to be. Let's just say, in terms of the creation of the poem, let's just say the early 15th. Like, no, as an early 15th century prostitute, the guy who is going to probably be the next king, he's not marrying you, lady. No one's that dumb.
What Nicole said there was he basically tells her, and if I'm remembering it correctly, he doesn't tell her anything. She says a bunch of things about what he might do, and I was hoping you'd say this, and would you ask me to be your queen? And he just sits there silently.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, I'm not gonna exactly. Yes, because he's not gonna say I can't make a hoe into a housewife with his words because he feels bad saying that. But he's also not going to lie to her, which I will be honest, I respect.
I mean, respect, typical fuckboy, like, I'm not going to say that we're not dating, but I'm never going to tell you what's actually going on so that you can keep reading into this.
Would the kind of person who does that be called a fuckboy, Nicole?
Yes.
Okay.
But it's that I do actually think that given the like class realities here, he knows what the deal is. She should know what the deal is if she's not a fucking idiot. I don't think that I think that he is actually not being particularly unclear about what the dynamic is. The dynamic is like, we will have sex and I like you, but obviously I can never marry you.
I see.
I'm going to be the king of England or whatever.
Up until the first scene, I would assume that he had been acting under the assumption that he wouldn't be king at any stage. Mm-hmm. So he probably was saying to her, we could be together and I love spending time with you and you're my number one hoe and etc. etc. But then as soon as Mammy organizes this for him, it's like, well, sorry, love, you're out the door. I'm moving on with somebody else. Not that we know who this other person is, but yet. But it's the fact that he doesn't respond to those questions, and she still seems kind of hopeful at the end. Like,
no.
What do you think is going to happen?
I wonder if he's her only client.
Customer.
It really doesn't seem like she is working with anyone else. I mean, is she a whore? Because it seems like she's just his girlfriend.
I mean, she's living at a brothel.
But I mean, we've all done that from time to time, sir.
Exactly.
Hey, maybe she's the madam in this brothel.
Oh, maybe she's what? No, wait, what did they call it? Bottom bitch? Is that what they said?
Is that what they call it?
Is that not what the number one, like, so not the madam, but like the number one prostitute who keeps the other ones in line?
Oh, I don't know.
I have no idea what that's called.
Okay, so I'm gonna cut that out when I'm editing this just in case. But I'll cut this out as well. I'm almost certain they refer to them as the bottom bitch. So it's like as in the one that you can rely on, who keeps it a steady ship, if that makes sense. So they might be they're the one you can rely on. So they're like the base, the foundation of your whole empire. Don't ask me why I know this.
Well, I hope that's true, and that's her job.
I'm Googling it. I don't see anything.
I will find out where I find that from, but it's definitely I've definitely heard that phrase.
Please don't cut that out. I'm gonna make it so you can't cut it out because I'm just gonna refer to her as the bottom bitch for the rest of the episode.
Okay, wait a minute. Misogyny alert. It's not bottom bitch. It's bottom girl.
Okay, no. In fairness, when I heard it, I'm fairly certain it was in a movie.
No, you're all right. It says bottom girl, bottom woman, or bottom bitch is a term for a prostitute who sits atop the hierarchy of prostitutes working for a particular pimp.
But see, and I think bottom girl is actually, and I think bottom girl is actually the most misogynist because she is an adult woman, excuse me.
Is she though? Is she? Does she?
This woman isn't, but.
Is the pimp like, come back to me when you're 18, I can't use you.
Oh God. So Gawain finally escapes these children and his prostitute girlfriend and leaves. And sees a fox, sees a whole lot of corpses, and he comes across the worst young man I have ever seen or encountered in my entire life. Just one look at him, and I just know instinctively, this person is garbage. They are garbage. Do not listen to them. Do not talk to them. Run away.
Oh, and I'm pretty sure when he came up on screen, I looked at you and I'm like, oh, I hate that guy. Every movie he's in, I absolutely cannot stand him. Yeah.
Yes.
He's in Eternals, right?
Yes.
And as Druig, because he can't do accents, so he has to sound Irish. But I have a genuine problem with the actor, right? And it's the same problem I have with Saoirse Ronan, in that they cannot pronounce their own name and insist on pronouncing it incorrectly. Saoirse Ronan, she goes on interview panel shows and all this sort of stuff and goes, Saoirse. Her name is not Saoirse. Saoirse is an Irish word. It's Georgina. Her name is spelled Saoirse, an Irish word, which means freedom. Barry Keoghan is that guy's name. The second name, Keoghan, very common, incredibly common Irish second name. And he's the only person I've ever seen in my life who calls himself Keoghan.
I mean, that's just like the American habit of, okay, I'll give you an example. A friend of mine was in charge of a call center and she was taking a reservation for a hotel. And the lady kept saying, Deborah, Deborah, Deborah. And she's like, okay, can you spell that for me? And she just spelled the word Deborah. She just spelled the name Deborah, but she just chose to say it that way. So I feel like it's that particular, I need to be extra special. So let me just pronounce it the way I want to. Like if I was like, hello, my name is Nicolay, even though it's spelled Nicole.
So weird.
And also, he can't not be a creepy little bastard. Like
his face is so punchable.
Yeah. I just want to hit him with a brick every time I see his face.
And
just immediately.
Apparently he's one of the next big things in Hollywood.
Next big things for me to throw, my shoe at if I see him in person. And it's so weird to me. And this is what gets me. You would never allow a woman as ugly as him to be anywhere near levels of his career. Like I'm supposed to be into him in some way, but you would never allow a woman who wasn't perfect to be in the same sort of situation.
I'm also increasingly really upset because I did not know that he was the person who played that character in Eternals. And I just listened to an entire podcast where they talked some non-spoiler stuff about the Eternals and where they kept talking about how hot the guy who plays Druig was. And now I'm so upset. I'm so upset. I've never been this upset before in my life.
Well, and I haven't seen it yet either, but they're like, oh, the real love story is with him and someone else. I'm like, I don't want to see him in a love story.
No, in fairness, that is a cute love story between them.
But it's going to be hard.
He's legitimate. He's a bit of a dick, but the only one of the other Eternals that he's actually really nice to is her. And she can't communicate. She can't speak. So she uses sign language. And he's the only one who seems to actively sign language back to her.
I love that they've been around for thousands of years, and the other ones are like, "Yeah, I'll get around to learning."
Oh, the rest of the terms are also quite nice. But what gets me about him is he has topped sexy actor polls and stuff like this.
Ugh.
And he's not even the sexiest Irish actor.
No.
Who has randomly showed up and stuff in the last few years, because that's Robert Sheehan. Robert Sheehan from Umbrella Academy. I'm as straight as it's possible to get. And
yeah, he's sexy.
I'm fairly certain I would bang Robert Sheehan.
He has swagger. If you ever watched Misfits, he was on there as well.
Oh yeah, he's great.
Oh yeah, he's hot.
Yeah, and then there's something about the way and that would be different, because there's a way where you're not really attractive, but the way you carry yourself makes you attractive. Mm-hmm. That also does not exist with Barry.
No.
Yeah, no.
There's nothing about him. He looks like he should be slapped by everybody.
Absolutely.
He looks like the poor man's Ramsay Bolton.
So our new podcast is just going to be just negging this man for an hour a week.
I don't even consider this negging. I think this is constructive criticism.
This is truth.
Just accurate. Just like, I mean, it's not libel if it's true.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
Pronounce your name properly and stop being so unattractive to Nicole. Like, that's what you need to do, Barry Keoghan.
Not just me, but millions of women around me.
also me. Yeah. It's like, just okay, I don't care that he's not attractive. Just don't pretend you are attractive.
There you go.
Also, how just for the listeners at home.
How dare you lie to us?
For the listeners at home, it's okay to be unattractive. Don't worry about it. I'm not going to judge you. I love you anyway. Sarah and Nicole, do not like you.
It's okay to be unattractive, but how dare you pretend that you're not?
I feel like I'm being gaslit, honestly, by people who are trying to convince me this man is attractive. So unlike us, Gawain is a fucking idiot. So when this guy gives him directions and then is like a dick about not getting enough money for them, he's like, yeah, this seems trustworthy. And that's why he gets attacked and robbed in the woods like a fucking idiot.
It's so, like, I just don't get Gawain at this point. Nicole, have you ever watched the BBC Merlin?
Just an episode or so. I never really got into it.
Sarah,
it's a real experience.
It's a real experience, but like sexy Gwyn, in Merlin is incredibly competent.
Yes.
They decided to go the other way.
And they decided to go into, let's make him everything that's not knightly virtuous. And that's not really to the essence of the original story.
No, I mean, he's young and he has a conflict, right? But he's not just the fucking worst. He's not deeply dishonorable and incredibly stupid and incompetent.
But that's what he is in this. And it's just such a weird thing, because Gwyn is always one of those characters, as long as you're not in the Wheel of Time where Gwyn is the worst. But he's always one of those characters that I've kind of enjoyed. Like, I kind of like the way most things portray him. And I feel like Lowry has gone out of his way to make him unlikable. And it's weird because they've cast somebody that I genuinely enjoy watching.
I feel like the only reason his character is at all tolerable is because just Dev Patel is charming.
100%.
That's it. Like, Dev Patel, lovely guy, really talented actor, and he's making me like this version of Gwyn, whereas I really shouldn't. Like, he's just a douche.
Yeah. So they take the girdle, which, didn't do his job, apparently. They take all of his other stuff. They leave him tied up in the woods. Time passes. He dies, and low, unsettling music plays. Or did he? Because then it starts over, and it turns out that he's wriggling over to his sword and manages to use it to cut the rope. My mom is actually convinced that he does die here, and that the rest of the movie is like what he is imagining while he's dying.
What I think has happened in this scene is not that he's died. So he's shown lying next to a tree, and then they show another corpse that was in the exact same position and tied up in the same way. So we're like, he needs to try and find a way to escape. So he knows what's going to happen. So that's what I think happens there. And
that makes sense.
So what I thought he was going to do was crawl over on his belly and use like a broken bone from that body to cut himself free. But no, he crawls over to the conveniently still sharp sword, which is sitting there.
Why did they leave his sword there?
I mean, Barry Keoghan, he could do anything. Like, you can't trust that lad. Stupid, like.
Everyone is so dumb. So anyway, he gets his cloak, he gets his sword, he calls for the horse. The horse doesn't show up. He runs off. And now we get into his meeting with Saint Winifred. He, to more unsettling music, enters a mystery house in the woods, goes to sleep, and is woken up by a woman asking, "What are you doing in my bed?" And he, apologizes and all that. And then she hits him with the big reveal that, well, actually, I'd like your help finding something that I have lost. What I have lost specifically is my head, which is not in fact on my neck, as you might think by looking at me, but in this spring. And she tells the story that there is a lord who came seeking shelter. He tried to rape her and then cut off her head and threw it into the spring. So, and he jumps in and he gets her head and brings it back. It's like initially a skull and then it turns into a head and it kind of chats at him for a while. It tells him the Green Knight is somebody he knows. He puts the head back, it's a skull again. I guess he's fixed things. That's nice.
This is where the movie basically lost me. And I'm all for symbolism and stuff. And Saint Winifred, a legitimate saint, if you consider anybody who's a saint to be legitimate. But so it was a real saint. This is a real story that went around, that she was beheaded by a lover who she rejected. And then another saint came along and found her severed head and reattached it, and she was back to life, blah blah blah, right? And she's the patron saint of like life bringing and stuff like this, right? But he is talking to a ghost person who tells him she's dead. He jumps into the lake, pulls out a head, throws it on the ground, and the head starts talking to him, and he does not react. There's no reaction. It's like
this is the second time that a head has talked to him in the last year. So I guess it's just not weird anymore.
But his mom is not a witch.
Yeah, this is what I mean. It's just such a bizarre. He's so calm about it. He's having this chat with it. He's reattaching the head. Even at one stage, he goes to touch her shoulder before he's reattached the head. She's like, "Don't touch me." He said, "Oh, you should know better than to touch me." Why would he know better? Is this like something like I get that the novel is about the chivalric code, but does the code of chivalry say if you happen to come into the embodiment of a dead saint who needs their head to be reattached and can return to life, don't touch them?
Yeah, of course it says that. Why wouldn't it say that?
Yeah.
Did you come across them in the woods? Then you must drink 3 times from the ladle of life. But if you come across them in their house, you must dive into it. Like, it's just such a weird thing that she acts like the rules have been established for him, and he doesn't react with horror when he sees a head talking to him. And yet the same guy is terrified of the 3 robbers who rob him. Like, he's basically about to pee himself.
See, I'm fine with that because the 3 robbers are actually a threat. The headless woman seems perfectly nice.
And she's played by the girl who plays Memphis Nest in Solo.
Yes, yeah. I really like her. Saint Winifred is my favorite part of this movie.
Yeah, I was like, I felt more for her than I did for the prostitute, like even a little bit.
Gawain. Yeah, or Gawain, or really anybody else. Mm-hmm. Yeah, most interesting, most relatable, to be honest. Because also, like, I just love her. Like, I love her acting too. Because also, at some point, Gawain is like, "If I go and get your head, what will you give me for it?" And she just looks at him and she goes, "Why would you ask me that? Why would you ever ask me that?" And I think that she's hilarious. I love her.
Yeah, I was laughing there to myself because it sounded like you were about to go, "I love her aura. I love her energy."
I do. I love her.
She just has really great vibes.
Yeah. She's in that house in the woods, that creepy house in the woods, just vibing on her own, waiting for somebody to come and save her.
Yeah. Well, but I think it's questionable if she actually needs him to save her as opposed to it being kind of a test. I don't know.
So just more emotional labor on the part of a woman to help a man become better. Is that what you're saying?
Which is what all of the women in this movie are doing, which I have thoughts about.
To be honest, I'm kind of appreciating the fact that it's reverse fridging. It's like, in order to further this character's plot, he has to take a woman's head out of the fridge and put it back together.
Yeah, no, I think she is excellent. But I will say, so okay, at this point we're like an hour through this movie. Approximately 10 minutes of this movie have involved things that happened in the poem.
Oh, just a quick, did you say we're an hour into the movie?
Ish, yeah.
Oh, it felt like several weeks.
I also just laughed my ass off at the fact that after this whole scene, there's just a like there's a bunch of text that pops up and it just says an interlude. And I just said out loud, I'm sorry, now there's an interlude? Wasn't that already an interlude?
An interlude, Sarah, is what pops up. And then he's got an axe and a fox companion.
Yeah,
Where did these come from?
The fox just starts following. We see her the axe. The axe was in the house after he gave her head back.
That's what I'm saying is the axe was just there in the house. The fox, when he comes out to dive into the water, there's just this fox looking at him.
Yeah.
And then it decides to follow him. A CGI fox, by the way. Like, they couldn't even train up a real fox to do these things. Such low production values, TJ Duffy. And then the axe is just in the house.
Yeah.
Dev Patel, Sir Gawain, or not Sir yet, just Gawain, doesn't flinch at this. Oh yeah, there's a Green Knight's axe just sitting in his house.
Yes.
Guess I carry it with me.
It's his reward for getting her head back.
I don't know.
Makes perfect sense. It's the only part of this movie that makes sense.
Then we get to an interlude, Sarah. Does that interlude just involve a really long scene of him walking through various fields?
And then
he walks.
The giants.
Oh, he eats some hallucinogenic mushrooms briefly. So that happens.
And then he watches all of those giants walking past, and I was like, I don't care about any of this. That's all I was thinking.
Like, what do you think those giants are meant to be symbols of?
I mean, I think that it's that there's one line in the book that says Gawain saw some giants, and then they're like, oh, we're gonna have the giants.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I thought. Like, it's just for people listening, if you haven't watched the movie, like later on, spoiler alert, I'm going to recommend watching it. It's a fun diversion for 2 hours and 27 minutes of your life. It's 2:10. Just 2:10. Well, I was watching the credits. But this from when it says interlude until he gets to the next location, it really is just scenes of him walking through various fields.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And it feels like it goes on forever.
Yes.
I believe I leaned over to Sarah and I was like, so this is just happening in real time?
That's what it felt like.
I think I also was absolutely that person who leaned over and whispered to you at this point, none of this is really in the book.
Right. And then I got up and left the theater. No.
I was thinking that when he finally got to the Green Knight would say to him, you're a week late, mate. Like, you were supposed to be here on Christmas Day. It's the 2nd of January. You've been just dawdling, walking through fields forever. It's just needlessly long travelogue. And also, he saw some giants.
Yeah.
They don't do anything, by the way, just in case you're listening.
Oh, no.
They don't.
They kind of sing at him.
Okay. I don't even remember that.
Yeah, they sing at him.
What do they sing, Sarah?
Yeah, can you jog my memory and recreate it?
It's just kind of like that.
Oh, it's kind of like a, kind of a throat singing. And I remember now, they're like, Despacito.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, so they kind of sing at him. Oh, one tries to reach out, and so first he's like, hey, could you let me ride on your shoulder? And then they just kind of look at him, and then one of them tries to pick him up, and then he cowers because he's a fucking whip. So that happened. That's a thing that happened.
Yeah, he's afraid.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what a loser. Afraid of an 80-foot tall person. Oh.
How dare you. What a dumbass.
I wouldn't have been afraid of him. I'd have been like, yeah, pick me up, put me on your shoulder, and
don't be hasty in trying to get me to the Green Knight. I definitely don't want to go anyway. So he finally reaches this castle, at which point we do finally, 1 hour in, embark on the plot that is 90% of the original poem. And that is that, so he gets to this castle. He's got a lord and a lady who are hanging out in the castle. They tell him, he tells him initially that it's, it's December 21st. You're good. The Green Chapel is like right near here. We can just chill for a few days. He meets the lady, who is also Alicia Vikander, which is, I guess, means something.
I took it
what it means
to mean that he saw a woman and just thought to himself, she looks like Essel. And that he's paying so little attention to her that she looks like Essel to him. It's just a brown-haired woman, looks like Essel. It's fine. They all look the same to him, if that makes sense. Like there's nothing distinctive about this woman. She just reminds him of Essel, so she looks like Essel.
My interpretation is actually that because his mother has basically set all of this stuff in motion, his mother has actually like made her look like Essel to make her more tempting to him.
Yeah. Well, number one, the mother has a good eye, because this version of Alicia Vikander is far more attractive.
Exactly. Yes.
She doesn't
like, what
have
if your prostitute girlfriend, but way hotter?
It's like that girl you like, but we gave her a good haircut and a wash.
Yeah. She's got a real deep V. It's very flattering. So yeah, there also is, just by the way, just hanging out like at various places, never acknowledged or mentioned, just this blindfolded woman. Don't worry about it.
The blindfolded women.
That's part of their kink,
Yeah.
That's she has to be in the room at all times. Just don't talk to her. So.
Yeah. Don't acknowledge the blindfolded woman.
Don't look at her. She's there to wipe up afterwards.
Exactly.
But that
I'm assuming to not give her a chance to do that job.
I'm assuming that's the mother's avatar in this building, because the man has that mask on in the earlier scene when she's doing magic, and obviously the fox can't go into the building because people will be like, why is there a fox here? So I'm assuming that's the mom is like looking through the eyes of the blind woman at the table. But it's just such strange stuff. And I get it that the original book has changed, but if you're going to update it, like, make it be a bit more sensical.
Yeah. So Gawain's having a good time. He looks at some manuscripts. He chats with the lady. She tells him that she's actually like copied a lot of the books. So, good for her.
Nicole, just very quickly. So Gawain looks at some manuscripts. Would you describe that as having a good time?
100%.
Or do you think that's just a historian coming out in ifft, or she's like, oh, we got to look at some manuscripts. That boy's having a good time.
Which I'm pretty sure she was like, this is not correct when it was actually shown. She's like, that would be more on this century. And I'm like, okay.
He's not wearing gloves. Nicole, I can't watch this.
Okay, so actually
getting on the paper.
Okay, so actually they now say a lot of archives actually say you shouldn't wear gloves, because the issue with the oils is actually less important than the fact that you're essentially more likely, because you have like less of a sense of the like physicality of the page, you're actually more likely to accidentally like rip or damage it if you're wearing gloves. So most of my archives actually are not glove archives.
Whether I've got gloves on or not, I am unlikely to rip any of those pages because I will not be touching them.
I will. I have.
I know you have, Sarah.
I want to go do that again.
Nope, sorry. They're just going to keep making variants. You're not allowed.
I know. Stupid
Sarah,
pandemic.
You're in America. Like, Go touch one of those manuscripts that American. Oh, no, sorry, I keep forgetting that's where you live. Anyway, continue, Sarah.
There's some old Elvis sheet music. That's what we'll do. We'll try to touch something at Graceland. That'll add that danger.
This is the original page. He wrote "Love Me Tender" on.
Yeah, and I'll touch it, and then somebody will probably shoot me.
Absolutely. Just somebody on the tour, a good guy with a gun. You know, they're like, "How dare you?"
Yeah.
She went to touch the page. Oh my God.
My God, Elvis is displeased. I actually have had some great conversations about like the similarity between the devotion to Elvis and the medieval cult of saints with a friend and colleague of mine who works on Elvis and like music history. But speaking of artists, Gawain gets his portrait painted by the lady, which is, just this really normal, regular portrait, like the kind you see all the time where it's in complete darkness and upside down, just like a very normal, good portrait.
I thought all of my portraits are in the house here.
Yeah.
But then that's because this is going to sound controversial. I don't mean it because I know you guys are part of the Elvis cult, but
that's true.
That's the way Neil Diamond wants us to do them, because Hail Diamond, the antithesis of Elvis.
This just makes me think of my friend's father, who died a few years ago, really loved Neil Diamond, and for his birthday I made him a Neil Diamond toilet seat, so that's what I have to contribute to this.
Excellent.
I did some artwork. Yeah, the beautiful artworks that when you lifted the seat up, you would just see Neil Diamond. And I bedazzled it. He loved it.
This sounds literally perfect.
So the Lord returns home with a dead boar that he seems to think Gawain is gonna like take home with him, which sure.
Played by Joel Edgerton, by the way.
Oh yes, Joel Edgerton. This is our Lord.
Yeah.
Uncle Owen.
Yes.
But I love that it has some real visiting your parents energy when they're like, here, take this home with you. You're like, I don't have room. What are you giving me?
I absolutely do want everybody to know that I took like about 5 meals worth of leftovers when I left my parents' house after Thanksgiving.
Yeah. My mom tried to give me a turkey yesterday. She says to me, stick it in the freezer until Christmas. And I said, you've been in my house. What makes you think I can stick a 16-pound turkey in my single man living in his own freezer?
Also, are you alone going to eat that 16-pound turkey?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's got to get ready to fight the Green Knight later. Come on.
But the Lord makes none of these suggestions. He just like throws a dead boar at him and proposes his own fun game, which is that he'll go hunting and he'll come back and he'll give Gawain whatever he finds hunting. And Gawain, in turn, will give to him whatever he gets while he is in his home.
All right. Looking forward to seeing Gawain give him a hand job.
Me too. So they have some more weird chats. The lady muses for a while upon why the Green Knight is green.
Invited him to his chambers, or her chambers.
Mm-hmm.
But Gawain does not go.
No. But he does awake to find the lady in his room. She kind of smells him like a weirdo.
I mean, that's how I start all my seductions.
And then offers him a green girdle, which she alleges to have made, which looks suspiciously similar to the one that his mother had made.
Do you know, this is what popped into my head as I was watching this, right? Is the first time I watched it, obviously. I was sitting there going, oh my God, what if somehow in his travels, he went back in time and is about to impregnate his own mother?
That's why
Back to the Future.
That's why she looks like Essel, because she's like, I can't horrify you and look like my actual self, but this needs to happen.
But also I was there, but not even that. Like I was thinking maybe the mom looked like Essel when she was younger, and that's why he's attracted to Essel the whore, because it reminds him of his mom in some way. And then through magic means, that's how she ended up looking like Sarita Chowdhury. But that when she was younger, she just looked like Essel stroke the lady.
She also says, I promise you will not come to harm, which is exactly what the mother says.
Yeah, and my thought was just like, oh, this is all part of their weird sex thing where they have these people go out and rob people. They take what they need from it. It's a whole thing. That's where my mind is. But I like the idea of impregnating your own mother. I think you should bring that to therapy next week.
Listen, I don't go to therapy, but if I did, I guarantee you, whoever happens to be my therapist, he's going to hear some shit.
They're quitting. They're just going to quit immediately.
In all my years as a therapist, I have never had to deal with something like this. I'd be like, buckle up. That's just up until I was 6. Oh my God.
So to make a extended story short, he gets a hand job and she leaves him saying, "You are no knight," with a girdle clutched his hand, which from henceforth I will accurately be describing as the cum-encrusted girdle, because we get a real excellent close-up of his hand covered in cum holding the girdle.
Or, because it's a green girdle, it is a metaphor for tinsel on a Christmas tree.
Green and silvery.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh,
yeah. Especially also because we did just get the line from the lady that red is the color of lust and green is the color of what lust leaves behind.
It's such a weird way to reframe what happens in, and I know you're obviously going to talk about what happens in the book, but
it wasn't that.
The re-aiming, because she pointed it at the girdle, but the re-aiming of this to be effectively him giving into his lust, because the way he's like resisting the lady, and then she goes, "Do you believe in magic?" And he's like, "All right, better let you give me a hand job then." Because that's it. That he's effectively resisting her, and then she says,
"Yeah,
do you believe in magic?" And
he
goes,
"I do." Yeah. Well, it's that so he wants the girdle, right? Because she promises him the girdle, and in the poem, it is also right that she initially offers him something else. She offers him this ring, and he doesn't want that because he feels like that's too big of a deal. But the girdle is very tempting because he's worried about his own mortality, and so he says yes to taking the girdle. And there is arguably in the poem a way in which that is also linked to giving in other ways, but at the same time, he doesn't actually. He has a couple of kisses with her, but it does not in fact go further than that, which is not because medieval poetry is afraid to be dirty. It very much isn't. But it's very much it's really kind of introducing this inability to control himself that is, I think, not actually part of Gawain's character fundamentally in the poem.
This is the issue I have with it. Is in the poem he's not afraid. He's not a coward. He's not particularly a coward. His problem with, and the reason he's not a knight, is he has issues with being chased, and that's why the lady represents a challenge to him and his new path to becoming knighthood or whatever. And this is what this entire quest is meant to be. But in this, because he's a coward, him giving in to, taking a sneaky hand job, is basically just a way for him to again show his lack of courage, because he does it so he can get his hands on the girdle, which will keep him alive. So it's
he could easily just he could snatch it from her. It would be so simple.
Yeah.
But he needs to also get a hand job, obviously.
It also just feels like shock for shock's sake.
Yeah.
Because as you two said at the beginning, when the Lord is leaving, he says, "Whatever you get, I get as well." And
which raises the important question: where is his hand job?
Where's his hand job?
Where's his hand job?
In the movie, we'll get to the movie in a second. But in the play, or not in the play, in the poem, in the book, he takes a kiss, and he gives a kiss to the Lord, because whatever you take from this house, you must give to me, and that's what he does. And it's a sign of his, like, it's a great betrayal. Like, it's a smaller version of the great betrayal to kiss another man's wife. But the fact that he takes a hand job in this just genuinely feels like let's throw this in for a little bit of, something for the dads. Like, as if, the idea of him just kissing her and taking the girdle isn't enough. It's 2021. We have to show him putting cum everywhere.
Right. And then for mom, that's when Joel Edgerton gives him a passionate kiss. So there's one for everybody.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Also, up until this point, Nicole and I were already like making jokes in the theater about the blindfolded woman like watching during sex. And then of course he like gets up holding his crumb encrusted girdle, and there she is just sitting in the corner. Which is great because this is absolutely his mother.
Like, she's wearing a blindfold, but the judgment was crystal clear.
Oh yeah. Also, this is absolutely his mother. Like, we need to emphasize this. This is clearly
it's his mother. That character is in the book. I think that's Morghese in the book.
Or it's Morgaine in the book, but
Morgaine,
it was not his mother, but like that is Morgaine in the book. So I assume it is supposed to be, because now his mother's Morgaine in the movie. So I assume that it's also supposed to be Morgaine.
Yeah, that's what I meant. It was Morgaine in the book, so it's that's who his mother is in this. So I'm assuming that is definitely her. So that at least is true to the book. But then we get out to the Lord, where he meets him, and we have another one of those. Let's have a conversation where both of us are saying things which are not, like, both of them are just. It's like seeing two people doing two Mad Lib conversations to each other.
Well, because it's so deep. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
So deep.
So deep.
So deep.
Like, what did you get in the house that wasn't mine already? Oh, I didn't get anything. Oh, whatever. And then Joel Edgerton leans down off his horse, tenderly touches him on the cheek, and gives him a quite, I would say, sexy kiss.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's the lead up to the hand job, which he is owed. He's
100% owed a hand job. And I think that Sir Gwyn should be back in there jerking off Joel Edgerton. Uncle Owen.
He really should.
Needs to be blowing out his blue milk all over the place.
I mean, like, don't get if you can't, like, don't accept if you're not going to reciprocate. I'm just saying.
Yeah, this is why you just don't get involved in swingers if you're not ready for that kind of lifestyle.
Right? Yeah. Gawain wasn't ready. Gawain wasn't ready for this couple.
Absolutely not. They're too much.
He just couldn't handle it. Too much. Like, maybe it was just Joel Edgerton's beard, but something just pulled him off. And then also Joel Edgerton has his mom in a sack.
Yeah, so he lets his mother free, the fox.
The fox. His mom is the fox. The fox, like, don't go that way, son.
Yeah, because it's right as he kind of gets to the river that he's supposed to cross to get to the chapel, that the fox then starts in a deep, this is very unsettling. The fox starts unsettlingly talking to him, and it is his mother's voice, and tells him to bear his shame happily and turn away. And they comment in particular on the girdle, which he describes as being just a dirty rag, which is correct. That cum-encrusted girdle is just a dirty rag.
Sarah, is saying cum-encrusted girdle the joke that you have been?
No, I'm not up to that yet.
Okay.
This is saying cum-encrusted girdle repeatedly is just an accurate description.
Okay, all right. I'm ready. I'm preparing myself.
That's not my terrible joke. The terrible joke is coming. There's a terrible joke that Nicole that I came up with 2 months ago that I wrote down so I could make on this podcast.
Wow.
So Gawain shows up. Green Knight's there. He's kind of stone-like, but it's Christmas Day. He wakes up. He says to Gawain, "You came," which, yeah, he did.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
And they, agree, all right, come to see the blow returned, but Gawain...
Stop saying come, Sarah.
I'm trying. It's not my fault. This movie has done this.
Does Ollie know about the chain of gas stations we have here called Come and Go, and it's spelled K-U-M?
I'm not sure I have come across, oh God, I'm not sure I was aware of this chain of gas stations, and I guess I'll have to be on the lookout now for those.
I was on a trip when I was teaching at that girls' school, and I was like, yeah, I'll go on a trip with them. And we were stopping in Arizona, and we're like, let's stop at the Come and Go. And I was just staring at the sign, and I'm like, this place is so puritanical, and this is what you name your gas station?
I hate this country.
The Come and Go is the place I spend Christmas morning in every year. It's just my local
Sir Gawain. Gawain bravely runs away to the sound of jaunty music. Conveniently, his horse is there, which is what I call a real Deus Ex Machina device.
Oh my God, Sarah!
I was like, all right, everybody, I gotta go. I'll see you guys. I just get off the call.
I mean, first of all, he would pick a pocket. But it's also pretty funny.
It's a good dad joke.
Thank you. So he runs off home. The reason, all right, so I'm gonna go ahead and give it away, right? This is gonna turn out to maybe not be really what happens. The real reason it's not really what happens is that he passes that fucking kid, what's his name, Barry Keoghan, and he doesn't fucking stab him.
Yes.
Totally inexplicable. Senseless. Stab him good. But
yeah, I expected there to be some kind of revenge, and I was very annoyed that there wasn't.
I know. But he goes home. His mother greets him. She bathes him while he is still wearing his cum-encrusted girdle.
Yeah, but it's not new to her because he went back in the past. She helped him put that cum there.
She knew that cum was coming.
Yeah, it is, however, maybe new to Essel, who he can't meet her eye, but he can have sex with her, again, while still wearing the cum-encrusted girdle.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Arthur dies. Right before he dies, he gets up on his deathbed to knight Gawain. We do get a close-up at this point of the cum-encrusted girdle again, because we're very much emphasizing in this whole sequence that in every scene, he is still consistently wearing the cum-encrusted girdle. Gawain gets crowned king. Essel gives birth to a child. They take the child, leave a few coins, and leave her crawling on the floor after the kid. I still hate her, but that's shitty.
That's just good childcare. What are you talking about? You gave her something that she could learn to manipulate. You're really taking care of all of her needs.
Yeah, because it's set up that's a double scene where he's getting ready for a wedding. She's obviously had the baby. We see him getting dolled up and ready and cleaned up for a wedding, and then we're seeing these men and the king taking the baby off her. And then we see the bride from the back, and it turns out that's right. It's little Gingerhead herself, Empress Nest, and it's Saint Winifred. And she's a very, very beautiful woman.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously so some sort of lady or whatever. But I where does that come out of? What the hell, Dev Patel?
I mean, yeah, this is, I guess, also what. To me makes very clear, right, that this is essentially a kind of extended sort of dream sequence, is that it makes no sense that he would be marrying this dead saint.
Or
it's just that she's this person who comes to mind.
Wasn't it just a look into his future where if he keeps being selfish, this is what's going to happen?
And it also, I think, maps onto that she kind of kept saying in that whole scene, right? She kept saying, "A night like you, maybe it was you." And that by doing the wrong thing, he's essentially kind of mentally, at least, aligning himself with the rapist and murderer who Saint Winifred told him about.
Yeah, because of his lack of courage, he's never going to make the right decision. So every decision we see him make after this, at this point, is the wrong decision.
Yes. So they have sex. There is a shot, by the way, of them undressing and her attempting and being prevented from removing his cum-encrusted girdle.
Yeah. No, my mom gave me that in more ways than one.
Good God. So yeah, they're together. He also has his son with Essel, who does actually seem to be the kid who's like been being set up as his heir. But the child then like goes to war and he dies. There's like a bit where he and the now older Essel like lock eyes in the crowd, and people are like throwing fruit at him, and somebody murders the person who threw fruit at him. So his reign's going pretty poorly.
I think it's implied that he was worried about the Green Knight coming back, I think. So he basically just walls himself in Camelot, wherever.
But also like has a war for some reason. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if people are attacking him because they think he sucks, or if he is preemptively attacking people for whatever reason.
I think it's a civil war situation where people are like, he's just up there in the castle, just looking after himself and letting the rest of us starve. So they're starting a revolt, which is what led to his son getting mortally wounded, and he himself just getting people throwing fruit and dirt and stuff at him. And then we cut to him sitting on the throne, and some people about to kick in the door.
Yep, and everybody else just kind of gets up and says, "Nah, I'm gonna go." So his wife leaves with their kid. His mother leaves, and he sits there. And as the door opens, he slowly removes his cum-encrusted girdle for the first time in 20 years, and his head falls from his neck.
So the first time I saw this, right, and this is not quite the end. The first time I saw this, I took it to, I was like, oh, so he did let the Green Knight strike him, and the green sash, the girdle, was keeping the head attached. And it wasn't until he decided to give up and I'm done with life and I'm finished with life, and he unleashed it and the head fell off. But that doesn't make sense if you see the next scene. But that was the first thing that popped into my head. I was like, oh, I was thinking to myself, that's clever. So he kept that on the entire time.
That's why it wasn't true. They're like,
because it was clever. But then after his head falls from his shoulders, we cut to him it's still Christmas Day, and he's still in the Green Church.
Which, as Nicole has pointed out, is really just actually the ending of Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 2.
100%. Yep. They just took it from Twilight.
Like, we're going to have this whole dramatic sequence and all of this stuff happens, and then surprise, it didn't really happen.
Yeah, it's a future that could happen. Oh, jeez.
And the Green Knight.
Ollie, have you seen Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 2?
I'm not going to admit to that where people can hear.
I mean, don't be embarrassed. They're fantastic comedies.
Exactly. You should go see Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 2.
I am not going to admit to that, just in case any of my students are ever listening. Never watched it, never will.
I hope your students aren't listening, because we have spent a lot of time talking about common.
Usually I throw them I throw them a quick recommend. Oh, I was on the podcast. Don't think I'll be doing it with this one. Cum-encrusted girdle. But the Green Knight's about to land the blow, and Gawain stops him again. And I'm sure at this stage the Green Knights get really pissed off. But he finally takes off the sash.
Yes, he finally removes his cum-encrusted girdle and says, I'm ready.
And then the Green Knight gets down on his knees, touches his face in a very similar way to the way the Lord had done. I thought he was leaning in for a kiss here, and says, brave little knight.
Now off with your head. And then the movie ends. So we don't know if he cuts off his head or not?
We don't. Did you watch? You didn't watch the credits, so you didn't see the mid-credit scene or end-credit scene?
Oh no, I turned it off too soon. What's the mid-credit scene?
Well, I was assuming you did. So because I was looking for TJ's name, so I left them running, and I did not see this the first time I did. So we cut to some time in the future, and there's a crown just sitting on the floor, and in crawls a little girl, picks up the crown, King Arthur's crown, and puts it on her head. And that's the end of it. However, the little girl is the same little girl that he had with Lady Winifred in his predicted, life after, the one that didn't happen, right? So it's the same little girl. So what I was thinking is this: are they saying that even though he plucked up the courage to not do that, he still didn't marry Essel? He still
he shouldn't marry Essel.
No, I'm not saying he should. But what I'm saying is he still made those bad choices. So even though he plucked up the courage to let the Green Knight strike him down, because that child was absolutely the child from earlier in the movie, who they just cut to one scene of him and Winifred, and Winifred's got a daughter sitting on her knee. It's the same little girl. So I was sitting there going, is this trying to say, is this just a random thing to throw in, or is this saying, yes, he actually did survive, the Green Knight didn't kill him and he went on and lived? But if it's that girl, then that means he still got married, or at least banged Lady Winifred, or
but who is dead? Essel isn't dead of like syphilis by the time he gets back.
Or that, just honestly, okay, I'm sorry, I'm here to do the unpopular opinion that it's not a bad choice for him to make an arranged marriage like a normal fucking king. He shouldn't marry his prostitute girlfriend. I'm sorry, he shouldn't.
You've been on about this for years. You keep going on about arranged marriages are the best. Ollie,
they're a real
need to get an arranged marriage.
I'm saying they're a real thing. Yeah, exactly.
Like,
you need an arranged marriage, or even divorce.
Nothing's ever gone wrong with an arranged marriage, Ollie. They're like, do you know? Think about this. You say to me, you go, Ollie, say you're going out for drinks with people. Is it not better to arrange it first? And I go, yeah, I get you. And then you go, but that's why a marriage works. I don't even understand your logic, Sarah Ifft. Like,
I'm just saying that marriage in the Middle Ages, especially if you are a king, is not about love. It's about politics.
Yeah,
that's how it works.
He'll still have the same relationship with Essel. She'll just be his whore,
Yeah. I think it's a perfectly reasonable thing. Yeah, she can still just like be his mistress. He can even like give her a nice house.
Ladies, we've already discussed this. Bottom bitch is how we describe Essel.
She doesn't have to be a bottom bitch anymore. She won't be queen, but she can have a nice little house.
She's top bitch now.
Exactly.
I'm just all of this arranged marriage talk. Sarah's always on about like just arranged marriage. Always arranged.
Yeah, because that's how things worked.
She says, "What's the best way for flowers to be? In an arrangement. Therefore, arranged marriage is the best." It's like, okay, I get it.
I'm just saying he shouldn't marry his prostitute girlfriend, because you can't do that, and also because she sucks.
Are we on the Vera et Falso already?
We are.
Vera et Falso.
Where we talk about what the film got right and wrong.
Just one thing, Sarah. Nicole, it's meant to be bad, right? I just in case you're wondering, I'm not sitting here thinking,
there it is.
Wow, sure. What an amazing voice I've got.
Yeah, sure.
So first one, we'll just
quick, right? Yeah. This should be pretty quick because they got everything right.
Yeah, just everything. No, but okay, so I am gonna. Okay, so it's actually another section where I'm going to talk about the poem and its relationship or lack thereof to the poem. But actually, what I find really interesting is that this film actually has a lot of like weird bits, which I think are really like interesting as allusions to real medieval things in various degrees. So first, I'm going to talk about material culture. It is a trope that drives me insane that people in film set in the Middle Ages have this like gray filter, and like everything is gray and they're wearing like gray and brown. I really like that Gawain, as an elite male would, is wearing lots of color. He's got this golden yellow cloak. He's got this whole like blue outfit, and the gold is actually probably linked to the fact that he has gold armor in the poem. The blue, interestingly, is actually a color that tends to be associated with the Virgin Mary. It's what she's usually wearing in medieval paintings. And there is actually a lot of kind of mentions of devotion to and prayer to the Virgin Mary in the original poem. So I like that as well. And that there also is this like really extended scene of him being like garbed and armed and all of that. And that is also something that appears in the poem, even though some of the details are changed. And I will note one of the details that is changed is something of an off note from a material culture perspective, in that so he's supposed to have a shield with this pentacle on it. And then there's this whole like related speech about like all of the different, like there's like 5 sets of 5 and the meaning of all of them. And it's like the wounds of Jesus and the virtues of a knight and all of these other things. But that because of that, the 5-pointed star, the pentacle, is his symbol. Instead, they replace that with this reference to the Virgin Mary, but it is in the form of a shield that looks oddly like a Byzantine icon. So a bit off in terms of both time and place, I would say, stylistically speaking.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I looked at that shield and went,
yeah, that's what I was thinking the whole time.
Very Byzantine. And then I looked it up because I really enjoyed the color of his cloak. And that color of green is referred to as beta cook green. So turns out even back then they knew.
He's a real alpha male. Yeah.
I'm also very intrigued by Arthur and Guinevere's costumes. So they have these crowns that I believe they've actually deliberately said, or they actually explicitly said, are like meant to look kind of like halos, which I think is interesting, since Arthur in particular has this almost like quasi-saintly function in medieval Christian culture. And their clothing, I also thought was really interesting, in that I at least interpreted it as having religious evocations. So Arthur has this cloak that he's wearing with a series of medallions that seem to like depict different little scenes. And there actually are ecclesiastical vestments that are quite similar to that. And Guinevere has this whole like collection of little pins, which I am interpreting as a link to pilgrimage badges, that you would get these like different like pins, essentially different places that you go, and you could wear them to kind of indicate that I've been on pilgrimage to these particular places. So much of the other material culture elements of the film, however, I've got to be a bit nitpicky and complain that they are really a bit closer to late 15th and early 16th century than they are to the early 15th century of the poem, which I know is a difference that is apparent, I'm sure, to everyone watching the film.
What a bunch of losers. Can't get anything.
I know, right? So yeah, so for example, like the portrait, so the second portrait done of Gawain is just like weird, but the first portrait looks like a like late 15th, early 16th century portrait.
Or someone ahead of their time in the early 15th.
Yeah, it's just somebody really styling. Similarly also so, in the Lord and Lady's house, there's this one ceiling that has this like intense vaulting where there is these kind of like fan-shaped things sort of coming down.
Yeah.
So that is called pendant fan vaulting, and is very similar to the Lady Chapel in Westminster Abbey, which was built in the early 16th century under the patronage of King Henry VII. Okay. So yeah, again, just very, very ahead of its time.
Somebody has to be trends, Sarah, Yeah,
exactly. They're just trendsetters in their weird fantasy fictional castle somewhere. However, the manuscripts actually are pretty good. The manuscripts look convincingly, like 14th century-ish, so it makes sense that they could have them. And the Wheel of Seasons that we see depicted in the background of the puppet show is also, I would say, could be period appropriate. And hand puppets are accurate to the period. That hand puppets like this one were very popular in late 14th and early 15th century England.
Well, I'd imagine that being, late 15th century versus early is still a lot better than most movies end up doing for medieval movies, like in terms of getting it. Yeah.
Yeah, the fact that I would say it's later than the poem, but that I think you could actually, based on material culture, make a pretty convincing argument for the movie kind of consistently being late 15th century. I think is actually better than most movies do, which have this just bizarre mashup of things. So the clothing doesn't quite fit into that, but I don't think they're trying for it to be, and the clothing is just sort of interesting in its own way. So honestly, not that bad.
Right, but not as good as like Discovery of Witches.
Oh yeah, no, clearly not. Obviously, that's just the pinnacle of accuracy.
Yeah, 100% correct.
I also really like that people bathe, because that's another big medieval trope, that like nobody has bathed and you literally don't even like wipe off the dirt encrusting your face. So I like that people are getting clean.
Which, I just saw a TikTok where somebody was like, hey, I need to debunk that people in the Middle Ages, didn't bathe. They did. And I was like, great. And he's like, but, and it was a man, of course, but it wasn't really bathing. Bathing would be like getting in a bathtub, and that was done infrequently. When they talk about washing themselves, it was just their hands. And that stopped when the fork was invented. And I was like, I'm just going to keep moving. Like, I stopped watching the video at that point. I was like, okay, I'm going to say I'm not a historian, but I think you threw too many things in this short video.
Yeah, and people did. It's not like it is like it actually wouldn't necessarily be. It certainly would not be daily, a full on like fully bathing, but that would be depending on class, like every week or every couple of weeks. So not never. And also, in addition to washing your hands, it would also like you would wipe your face off. Like people aren't running around just like with
dirty faces and like very clean hands. That would be very weird.
Yeah. So, I appreciate that they are paying attention to cleanliness to some degree in this. Briefly on the Green Knight, that the design is very different from the description of the book, where he's just like a dude who's just all green.
I kind of love that he was a tree man.
Yeah, I really liked it.
I thought that was neat. Yeah,
and it's clearly evoking the Green Man, which is a medieval motif. So as I said, it's a change, but it's a change that really worked for me, and I thought he was really cool looking.
Yeah, that one worked.
Yeah, and as I said, it felt period appropriate, even if it wasn't specifically connected to the poem. And that is also true of Saint Winifred. So Saint Winifred is, we talked about this a little bit earlier, right? But she's a real medieval saint. She's a 7th century Welsh virgin martyr, and becomes especially popular in England starting at around the 12th century. And she has this suitor, this guy Caradoc, who beheads her in fury when she announces that she would like to go and become a nun.
But literally nothing changes. Nothing has changed. Men just are always losing it when a woman rejects them.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, that's just how men are. Sorry. But because she's a saint, a healing spring arises in the place where her head falls. And also because she conveniently has an uncle whose name is something like Buno. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce Welsh, who is also a saint. And so basically like he like prays or something and she gets her head back.
Okay.
So, and then she like lives a long life. She becomes a nun as she's planned. She gets to be an abbess eventually. She's got a great time.
Yeah, that seems like likely. That seems 100% true.
Yeah, no, makes sense. Just, yeah. And also I will note that I think it is very funny that even though she did not in fact die, she is still considered to officially be a martyr saint.
That is interesting.
Yeah. It's like, oh, well, she was martyred. It just didn't take, I guess. And also, so she does not appear in this poem per se, but there are connections. So first of all, she is Welsh, and the dialect in which the poem was written is a Northwest Midlands dialect. So, on the Welsh-English border. So she kind of geographically makes sense. And the poem even actually refers to a spot called Holy Head, which most people connect with Holywell, which is like the site of this spring that was supposed to be the spring that sprung up when Saint Winifred's head fell off.
We pronounce it Holyhead.
Holyhead.
Like Holly, like Holly, even though it is Holyhead, but we say Holyhead.
You also say tapas.
Yeah, what's spelled like?
But yeah, so yeah, Holyhead. And so yeah, so that actually is referenced in the poem. So the Winifred sequence is something that I actually thought was an interesting interpolation as something that is not in the poem, but that has a connection to the poem, which then I think can lead into the next segment, the Historia et Veritas, if Ollie, you would like to bring us in.
Historia et Veritas.
Oh, that was a good one.
They're all good, Sarah.
Of course. This is an especially good one. I think this film actually I think it makes some choices that are deliberately somewhat anachronistic, but in terms of a lot of the visual style of this film, I think it actually does a pretty good job of evoking a kind of specific period, which is later than the poem a bit, but still. But as an adaptation of the poem itself, it is what could be perhaps best described as extremely loose. So let's talk a little bit about the poem Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. It's a chivalric romance written in Middle English alliterative meter. So essentially what that means, right, is that there's just like a lot of alliteration, and also that it is a poem in meter, essentially, right? That there are specific like arrangements of syllables which which are kind of dictated by the meter. And that's something that is, you know, a kind of challenge for people who are translating the poem in terms of whether or not they actually can and or want to reproduce that. But we actually don't know a ton about the poem itself, other than basically what we're actually kind of gathering from the text. So based on the dialect, we place it around the year 1400 and put it in the probably Northwest Midlands region. But we don't have the name of the author. Things have been thrown out, but there's nothing definitive. And in fact, the poem actually only survives in one single manuscript, Cotta Nero AX, which has 3 other poems, including the Pearl poem, which are thought to probably have been written all by the same poet. So this is a poem that, while it draws on a number of other stories, and therefore probably some aspects of the narrative would have been familiar, the poem itself is not specifically something that would have been influential in, say, the 15th or 16th centuries in England. In fact, this poem was not like widely known. It was just like in this one manuscript in this guy's house, basically, until the 19th century. So since then, it has received a lot of attention. J.R.R. Tolkien was a big fan of it. He actually did his own translation at some point. So yeah, right. Yeah, he just like that's just what he did with his well, I guess with his day job, not with his free time. I guess his day job actually was translating Gawain and the Green Knight, and his free time was writing Lord of the Rings.
Wow.
Yeah, it's definitely a story that feels like it was written in somebody's spare time.
Exactly.
Yeah, you know. So the opening premise that comes from the poem. We've got the Green Knight. He shows up. He challenges a knight to this Christmas game, gets his head cut off, leaves, and then Gawain follows him a year later. So that's the same. The link to Morgan Le Fay is also the same in the sense that she is presented as being responsible. That's about where a lot of the similarity ends. So first of all, that, again, she's not Gawain's mother, as we've already talked about, that there's a different sister, Morgause, who is Gawain's mother, but they often get combined. And apparently her real motivation for doing it, according to the poem, is that, so she has this like weird feud with Guinevere, and her whole motivation apparently has nothing to do with Gawain. It doesn't really have anything to do with Arthur. It's basically just that she hates Guinevere, and she thinks that this guy's head falling off and then him like picking him it up and talking will freak out Guinevere so much that she'll drop
She'll have a heart attack. Yeah, she'll die.
Yeah. And that's the entire reason why Morgan did this in the original poem. I get why they didn't reproduce that. It's weird, but that is the original motivation. Then additionally, so around half of this film is dedicated to Gawain's journey. And some of these are expansions on some very brief references in the poem, so that we have this kind of Holyhead reference that he passes by. We have like this brief, like he saw some giants. But in the poem, Gawain's en route adventures are about 50 lines in a poem that is 2,530 lines. So a pretty minimal element of the poem.
That's what genuine. I know we've talked about this before, Sarah, and I know when you did your episode on the Green Knight that I had wanted to come in and talk about it. It's a really good story.
Yeah.
And this movie takes the really good elements of the story, puts them at the end, puts them at the beginning, and then gives you a long walk in the middle.
Yeah, which I think the poem actually very much makes the right choice in terms of basically saying, yeah, like, I'm sure it was very interesting, but that's not what we're doing here. And the
exactly.
poem
It's
is
just like, he's there,
yeah.
he walks, he sees some giants, he gets wet at some stage, I think, and that's it.
Yeah, and the poem is also, I would say, kind of, it's relatively concise. So as I said, so 2,530 lines. The translation that I have, just to give an example of Simon Armitage's translation, is under 200 pages, and it's actually a dual Middle English, modern English facing translation. So it's really like, it's 100 pages basically. So you can like read this whole poem very quickly. So I do see why they felt like they needed to kind of pad things out to make a 2-hour movie, but it is just very much like, it kind of makes the sort of balance very, very different.
Yeah, well, we can talk about that a bit more in the estimatio at the end, but then yeah, like it goes so out of its way to obfuscate the original story to make it something that it was never meant to be. Yeah, so
yeah. And related to that, the thing that I actually found most frustrating are that, so the scenes with like the Lord and the lady, and they're in this castle, and the Lord proposes this game. The game is that whatever I find, I'll give you, and whatever you find, I'll give me. That's from the poem, and yet the whole thing gets so transformed that it seems to have like a really fundamentally different meaning in a lot of ways. So, I mean, first of all, there is, and we've already kind of touched on this, right, that there is certainly this kind of concern being brought up, right, about sexuality and chastity, that he does in fact kind of have these kisses that are exchanged with the lady, that he does actually give to the Lord as he is supposed to, and that there's, you know, this talk of this girdle, right, and this kind of conflict over the girdle. One of the things that I actually quite like in the poem, which is then completely absent, is that the Lord and the Green Knight are the same person.
Yeah.
Is very, very clear. And it's actually like even very, very clear pretty much immediately if you're reading the poem. So that, for example, so again, to kind of use this translation, even in the visual depictions, when it talks about the Green Knight, it emphasizes his bushy green beard. And then we also have a bushy beard as red as a beaver's when the Lord appears, so that they've essentially have this kind of very similar physical appearance. It's just that he like changes colors basically.
Yeah, it's in making Morgana or Morgan Le Fay his mother, and having her be the impetus behind all of this story. It doesn't make sense to have the Lord as the Green Knight. So they invented this giant tree stump of a man. And it works way better if the Lord and Lady are both the thing which is testing his courage and the thing which is testing his chastity.
Yes. And that they're like kind of fundamentally working together.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it all kind of like makes more sense, and is this like really kind of tight and cohesive story that then, because they're introducing all of these elements, I feel like becomes really muddled.
Yeah, it's his step towards becoming a knight in the book. And those are the two things you have to prove, that you're both brave and chaste. But
yeah,
that's not really what's being tested in this version of the film.
Well, and he does have these kinds of tests, but it's also, I think it's interesting that, so like in the film, also there's this elements that like, okay, on that, you know, he has like these conflicts that actually are conflicts that aren't just rooted in him being a shitty person. So that, for example, there is this kind of like, she actually tells him not to, or asks him not to tell the Lord about the gift of the girdle. And so then that puts him in this position, right, where him not giving back the girdle is actually this conflict, because on the one hand, according to the kind of ideas of chivalry, he should, you know, essentially kind of do as she is asked and keep this promise and like, and, you know, and agree to her request, but then that means that he is not behaving honorably toward the Lord. And so that he is kind of put into this bind where there's actually kind of no right thing he can do. And that then, as I said, like involves him being a really, really different character and somebody who is much more kind of fundamentally sympathetic than this guy who just like sucks.
Yeah, see, that's what I was saying is in the original, he's being tested. These are tests of him. In this movie, they're not tests. It's not a test of his chastity. Like, he gives in incredibly quickly and goes to the hand job. And then there's never any reason for him. Like, there's no conflict when he's talking to the Lord. He just doesn't tell him about the thing. Whereas, as you said in the book, it's a treatise on how you can basically end up in a no-win situation. You're either being dishonorable to the lady, or you're being dishonorable to the Lord, and it's pick the lesser of two evils. And he chooses to dishonor the Lord rather than dishonor the lady. That's the choice he makes. It's the lesser of two evils in the book. In this here, there is no lesser of two evils. He gets a hand job, he gets a girdle, and then he gets to walk off and give the Lord a kiss and head off into the well, I was going to say into the night, but into the morning. Like, so it doesn't really hit the same beats as the original story, and it feels like a lesser version of the same thing.
And also, then the role of the Green Knight in this test feels so much fuzzier, because in the poem there is this like really clear like moment in which the knight basically actually like explains this, right? That he, you know, talks about the fact that, you know, first, you know, you were twice truthful, you honored my trust, and then you did not, in fact, then honor my trust, and that, you know, I sent her to test you. It turns out actually you weren't perfect, but you did a pretty good job on the whole. And that, you know, and that there's this whole kind of conversation explanation right about this, and then there's no explanation whatsoever about any of this in the film.
No.
Which seems like it's like confusing for the sake of being confusing.
Yeah, but again, that's estimatio. We need to learn more about the actual poem.
Yes. So the other thing that I did want to kind of bring in on the poem, right, in terms of kind of other aspects of the poem, is that, so this is, I think, as I said, this kind of really interesting story that I actually like a lot, but one of the less pleasant elements of reading it is that it has a whole lot of misogynist rhetoric. And this in particular actually comes up around this conversation about temptation. So and about this kind of test of chastity, that at the end the Green Knight basically says like, I get it, that Gawain says basically like, you shouldn't blame me for having fallen for this, because he says, but no wonder if a fool should fall for a female and be wiped of his wits by womanly guile. It's the way of the world. Adam fell for a woman and Solomon for several. And as for Samson, Delilah was his downfall, and afterwards David was bamboozled by Bathsheba and bore the grief, all wrecked and ruined by their wrongs. If only we could love our ladies without believing their lies. And those were fellows from fortunate families, excellent beyond all others existing under heaven. Yet all were charmed and changed by wily womankind. I suffered just the same, so clear me of my crime. So basically, it's not me who sucks, it's just women who suck. Cool, right?
I'm not talking about this.
Yeah, I was looking at Ollie's face. He's like, no, I'm not going to be saying it.
It's like, I'm not going to touch this one.
What terrible ideas.
So I have a lot of weird feelings about this movie related to this, because on the one hand, the movie I think does have, not Essel sucks, but in the form of Morgaine and the lady and Winifred, these kind of interesting female characters. But it still essentially is like doing the same thing, where it's like, oh, those awful women, they're like pulling strings behind the scenes and you know, tempting you and like bothering you. And like, it's so hard for men to do all these things when like women keep harassing them. Am I right? And that's kind of still happening in this movie.
Oh, it definitely is. Like, every bad thing that happens to him is because of a woman. Like, even the bandits that attack him in the woods, they added
a lady. Look, here's a shitty lady bandit.
It's a lady bandit that attacks him.
Yeah, so we end up then with this thing, right, where, okay, so you've made a whole lot of changes, but you've kind of still kept like the misogyny from the original. Like, all right, that's a move. That's a move that you can make. I will also note that this does pass the if Decker test via test, according to which there has to be one named woman who doesn't die. And goddamn, it passes really because of Essel, because they never actually name Morgaine in the film. But Essel seems to still be alive.
This is crazy. The last two movies I've covered have passed. So The Green Knight and The Eagle.
The Eagle absolutely did not pass. The Eagle aggressively did not pass.
Sarah, no named women died in that movie. I don't understand
because there were no named women. There has to be
a... Listen, if no named women die, then
but also
logically
survive.
All named women survived.
But there are no named women.
There is Selkie's sister.
No, that's not no. It's not a name. So not a name. She doesn't even have a name in the credits.
There is Slave Girl in Home. Like,
not a name.
Her first name is Slav. That's a name?
Oh, wow.
No, it is not. Slav Egirl. That's her name, right?
Slav E-Girl, yes.
This movie, however, does not, I believe, pass the Bechdel test, because I don't think any of these women ever talk to each other.
I mean, no. Why would they? What would they talk about?
Well, even if they did talk to each other, the only thing they could talk about is Gawain.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like the closest we get to even, I mean, so I guess there is like the blindfolded woman who is just like there a lot, but she doesn't actually say anything. There is like this scene, I guess, where Morgaine and her buddies are like doing witchcraft, and maybe they're talking to each other, but if they are, they're talking to each other clearly about like doing a spell to do something with Gawain or Arthur or whatever. So it doesn't count. And also they don't have names. So
I think you're being harsh, Sarah.
I'm always harsh. I'm always harsh. So yeah, so that is this movie and its flexible relationship to its source material. Let's just go with flexible.
Just like Essel.
But not like Gawain's cum-encrusted girdle. That thing is stiff.
That thing, after 20 years of being a king and wearing that thing, I'm surprised he was able to take it off. Sarah, we should probably go on to the next section before you get to say that phrase again. So I think it's time for
I'm done, I promise.
Fabula Nostra, where we come up with a film or show that's inspired by this one. Nicole, did you know this was coming up?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I was pretty sure I told you. I guess I didn't.
Basically, you're going to have to come up with something which is similarly themed or based on the name of the movie. So usually we get the guests to go first. That's not actually true. I'm just saying that to scare you.
I was going to say, I'm gonna ask you to go first, sir.
I don't mind.
I'm gonna make Ollie go first.
Yeah, it's fine. Right. So I love The Green Knight, as I said. I think it's a great story. And of all of this, if we go back to any other piece of literature from around about this time, I think it's the most coherent or one of the most coherent stories in a modern text that we can talk about. But I'm also enamored with the fact that this was made by A24. Yeah. A24 are commonly associated with horror movies. Mm-hmm. So I was thinking about the fact that The Green Knight walks in and lays down a challenge, lays down the idea of a game, right? And then I thought, why not turn it into a horror movie where the Green Knight comes in, lays down a thing, and rather than says, if you land a blow on me, I have to return and repeat the same thing, and then cut to 1 year later, because that's the weird thing about it to me in the movie is it doesn't give any of the what happened in that year. It's just boom, we're now at the end of the year. You have to go and deal with your issue, which is getting the same wound back that you inflicted. So what I was thinking was, whichever of them manages to cut the Green Knight is going to take something of theirs, and then they have to get it back. So I'm thinking like a cross between the Green Knight and Saw, for example, where Gawain has to go through a series of trials, a series of traps, and then in order to, in much of the same way as he's proving himself to be a knight in the original, in this one he has to prove how clever he is, he has to prove how brave he is, he has to be able to resist temptation. So it almost becomes like the five I can't remember how many are the tasks of Hercules, for example. It's a Gawain specific one where it's the 5 tests of Gawain, and it's how you test him to become basically a knight. And at the end of it, he gets what was stolen from him. So let's just say, for the sake of it, based on the movie we just watched, let's say it's Excalibur that gets stolen. So Gawain has to go and take Excalibur back, and that's what makes him then eligible to be the next king, because he returned Excalibur to Arthur. So I think that makes a much better sense. You can then theme each of the challenges to one of the knightly virtues. And you still have the same basic concept of it's a game. It's still set at Christmas. He still has a year. And you're also then not focusing on, just having somebody walk through the woods and through fields and through mud for 2 hours. So yeah, I would still call it the Green Knight. I would cast pretty much, nobody really needs to be, like Sean Harris was pretty good as King Arthur in this. So there's no reason not to cast Sean Harris again. I'm thinking Gawain needs to be a younger actor, because he, like, in order for him not to be a knight at this stage. So you talk about somebody in his early 20s, and it's hard to find. Well, I was going to throw that out as a joke, but I just couldn't. So I mentioned Robert Sheehan. I'm going to suggest Robert Sheehan as Gawain. I think he's a great actor, and I think he could pull off the swagger that's needed, because Gawain's character, he's very noble, but also he's a little bit cocksure of himself in the original. Yeah. So I think that's a good way. So I think Robert Sheehan could pull that off, and then you can cast him anybody older than him, like basically name a British actor between 25 and 40, and you can cast him as other knights and background characters, etc. So yeah, that's what I would go about. And just for the sake of it, if we're going to be getting Robert Sheehan to be kissing anybody, let's make Oscar Isaac the Lord, just because
sounds good.
We all want to see that. Yeah. And so as I said, I genuinely think the story is a good story as it is, but if we turn it into a test for Gawain that lasts the entire year, rather than just, hey, let's skip a year ahead, I think we get a better movie out of it. And then, so that's why we go with.
Yeah.
The Green Knight.
That'd be really interesting.
The Green Knight and the 5 Labors of Gawain.
I went a completely different route, which is, so what if you did have a movie that was a horror movie that involved a lot of walking, but instead he was walking through hell? So essentially my thought was that I think that the idea of doing this kind of evocative sort of horror inspired medieval adaptation would work really well with Dante's Inferno. And that you can, and I think that is also like a text that is like, it's a weirdly sort of both like episodic, but also cohesive in a lot of ways. I would really love to see how like A24 deals with like going through hell and experiencing all the like weird, like, oh, hey, here's just all of the popes just hanging around in hell. It's great. So I think that I would like to see, their take on the Inferno, and I would like to cast Daniel Kaluuya as Dante and Idris Elba as his guide Virgil, because who doesn't want to see Idris Elba leading somebody around for 2 hours? Also,
Virgil is such a good character.
Yeah,
like, so much more interesting. Like, not that Daniel Kaluuya can't pull it off, but he's so much more interesting than Dante.
Yeah, and it's also, I think, interesting in that like this film does have something of a kind of like, question that's being brought up of reliability and honor. And so I think like there are interesting things that are happening with that too in Dante's Inferno, in terms of just like a lot of the ways in which we talk about like what is the difference between like Dante the character versus Dante the writer, and I think that would be kind of fun to play with. So yeah, that's what I want to do. Is I want A24 to like keep doing, even though I have weird feelings about this movie, I want A24 to keep doing like medieval inspired like horror kind of movies, and specifically I want them to do Dante's Inferno.
Yeah, they're a good company, and they have good like budgets, and they make them, you know, they stretch them to do what they need to do, and they're not afraid to put in a little bit of practical effects as opposed to, you know, a dodgy CGI fox.
Right. Also, there's an old silent film, but there's very little in the way of like decent adaptations of Dante's Inferno. I mean, like there's one thing that's like based on a video game that they've done recently that looks like truly atrocious, but that it's like mostly like they have.
I said, how dare you? No, it is pretty awful. But Warner Brothers, I just Googled it. Warner Brothers just bought, I don't know how you'd buy the rights, but bought the rights to Dante's Inferno, and they want to start a medieval film franchise.
Oh
God, are we going to have a medieval extended universe?
Yeah, basically, that's what the article intimated.
The video game of Dante's Inferno for the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, or, you know, that generation of consoles, it's actually kind of fun. Like, I mean, it's nonsense, like it's bonkers, like, but you know, if you're into playing games and, you know, you don't have Dark Souls on hand, you happen to have Dante's Inferno, it's I mean, I didn't finish it. It's not something that caught my attention so much, and like I don't game anywhere near as much as I used to when I was a kid or whatever. But I think I put a solid 5 or 6 hours into it and enjoyed the 5 or 6 hours that I whiled away on it one day. So yeah, if you get a chance, Dante's Inferno, it's pretty good.
I watched, like, I've seen the trailer for the movie, and I just like hate the idea of like Dante, of like Beatrice is in hell and Dante has to rescue her. I'm like, ooh, no. Like, we don't, like, why can't we keep the version where actually like the woman is like better than him and doesn't need his fucking help? Like, because why is this worse than the 14th century original? Ugh. Anyways, I just don't like that specific choice. I like Beatrice as like, I mean, the whole thing is kind of weird in that the whole like concept is like, ooh, you have an unhealthy obsession with this like dead woman who you met twice. But you know, if we're going to do that, I would rather still that it was an unhealthy obsession with a dead woman you met twice, where you think she's like way too good for you, versus the version where it's like, and I have to rescue her.
Why in that version does he sound like Eddie Deason from Grease?
I don't know. And
I have to rescue her.
I don't know, but you know, it tracks. So Nicole, do you have a are you inspired?
Yeah, well, does it have to be medieval, or can it just be inspired?
No. Okay, it can just be inspired.
Just from the way this movie was very much like dreamlike, I think it would lend itself to maybe something that has gaps in it that we don't actually know what the gaps would be. So you can have it be more dreamlike. And so I would take this sort of same vibe and apply it to Gilgamesh. I think that would be interesting.
Ooh. Oh, that would be really interesting. Yeah.
I have no idea who I would cast as a 17-foot tall man, but you know, that's not for me to do. That's for the casting director.
Yeah. I'm sure there's, I mean, I don't know, like The Rock, I don't know.
Oh no, oh God, The Rock, no Gilgamesh starring The Rock. That sounds like a nightmare. No offense to The Rock, who I enjoy.
I can't picture The Rock as Gilgamesh.
No, not at all.
I certainly can't picture The Rock as like a dreamlike Gilgamesh. I can picture The Rock in the like Disney version of Gilgamesh.
Like smash him up Gilgamesh, you know? Like, like some sort of, but I think you could do something really interesting, and especially because there's gaps in that one, you can really make it really cool. So it'd have to be like A24, but that would be the one that I would take this similar construction and apply it to.
Gilgamesh is one of the Eternals.
Oh God, now we really need to see this movie.
I know, right?
I was just thinking, I was going through my head, I was like, I've seen Gilgamesh in something. Oh, he's one of the Eternals. Himself and Athena are like best buddies, possible lovers, but it's never really explicitly said on screen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but if you've been alive thousands of years, alive that long, I'm sure you've done it a few times with all your friends.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, so with that, I think we can go ahead and rate the film on a scale from 1 to 5 based on whatever completely subjective criteria we see fit in the section called
Estimatio. That's what I say rather than ratings. People say to me, Ollie, how would you estimatio this movie? And
estimatio is a noun.
Sarah, God damn it, you're correcting my Latin now.
That's what I'm here
for. All right, do you want me to go first?
Yeah, go for it.
Sure.
All right. I'm so conflicted on this movie because I think people should watch it, but I didn't necessarily enjoy it. And the second time I watched it, I enjoyed it less than I did the first time, because the first time I didn't know where it was going. So I was like, oh, it might pull it around. It might pull it around. It's like that Simpsons gag where the pig gets fired off and Homer sees it getting like dirty. Oh, it's just a little dirty. And then it goes in through a lake. Oh, it's just a little wet. Then it gets covered in oh, it's just little hypodermic syringes. And I'm watching this going, oh, it's just a little off. It's just a little crusty. It's just a little boring. It's just a little extended out. It's just a little weirdly creepy sexually. It's just a little overdone. It's just a little silly time traveling imaginary ghost version device. And it's just a silly, let's cut the fade to black at the end after saying off with your head. Like, there's a lot to like about it. It's visually stunning. Some of the scenes in it and the shots in it are fantastic, and TJ, I love you, but there is just so much waffle that this movie legitimately, and you see fan cuts all the time, and I know I sound like I'm complaining, but there are several scenes which are just long walks, and that's just padding out your movie to make it 2 hours and 10 minutes,
which it did not need to be,
which it doesn't need to be. Like, the movie that I watched is an hour and 30 minutes worth of movie with 40 minutes worth of weird looks or terrified views or dude lying on floor or contemplating what he's going to do. Even when he goes in to get the head from the lake, we have to have a couple of, like, and again, they're beautiful shots, but they're cameras underneath the water, seeing somebody jumping into moonlight into the water, and we get to see them swimming in slow motion. We didn't need that. He jumped into a lake, swam down and got a head and swam back up.
But I bet if you cut out all those scenes, there'd be way less unsettling music.
But see, that's the thing, is it's for the unsettling music. So I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. I think it could even be a 4 out of 5 movie, but it's too long for what you're actually seeing on screen. And I don't like how they messed with the original. And I'm not, when we get on to info for the listeners, I'm going to talk about the Wheel of Time show for a second. And I'm definitely not a person who wants to sit there and go, oh, it has to be exactly like the original book. But the changes that they made here just don't fit with the original story when you're putting this much of the original story up on the screen, if that makes sense. So 3 out of 5, it's worth watching. In fact, I think you should watch it, give it a go. But I will never put this on again. And that's rare. I say that with medieval set movies, because I would watch pretty much anything with this vibe.
I also felt very conflicted. So on the one hand, I really deeply appreciate that this isn't yet another epic with men with swords. There are a lot of medieval movies. They're kind of all the same movie. Most of them are completely wrong and do everything poorly. And I've seen that movie, and I've seen that movie before. I'll see that movie again. And so I always appreciate when people actually do something that's different and that is interesting. So I have a lot of appreciation for that about this movie. And I also like a lot of the touches in terms of, I think that there are interesting things it does in terms of material culture. I actually really like the Saint Winifred interpolation. But there's just so much that I feel like is artsy for the sake of being artsy. And it's not that I think you have to tell exactly the same story as the book. I think there's space in adaptations to do something different. But then your new story needs to make sense. And ultimately, I don't think this one does. And so it's not convincing me that it's doing something with this adaptation, with the changes they've made that add anything. And then you add into the fact, right, that it's like, so we made all of these weird changes, but like, as we did sort of like keep the misogyny, we're gonna just kind of stick with that angle. Like, I actually think that, another like thing that they could have been done that would have been really interesting would have been to actually maybe like center more sympathetically some of the female characters. So
nobody wants that, Sarah.
Exactly. God, how dare you have women in movies? So I'm interested in, like, I am actually going to watch this again. I can actually guarantee, because I'm going to be teaching it in my medieval at the movies course this spring, and I'm very interested to see what my students will make of it.
If any of your students prefer this to 13th Warrior,
they will be watching both. I'll keep you posted.
There's no way.
Thank you, Nicole.
There's just no way. I was gonna do 3 out of 5, but I think
same.
You know what? I don't need to spare anyone's feelings, because who cares? It's a 2 out of 5 for me, really, if not a 1. I mean, it's beautiful. The aesthetics are interesting, but there's an actual story there, and they decided to throw that out for 5 pages of dialogue that was some of the most pretentious that I've ever had to listen to, when they could have just made an interesting story from the story that actually exists.
Yeah.
But instead, they're trying to act like they are just talking down to everybody and making it, so layered and meaningful, when really it doesn't do anything by the end of it, which is why it went to a 3 to a 2. It doesn't accomplish anything by the end.
Actually, Nicole, that's an excellent point.
That's a very good point.
About the dialogue is...
Yeah.
Oh my God, the dialogue.
The original is obviously written in Old English, or whatever it was written in at
Middle
the time,
English.
and Middle English, and not old, in the
it's
middle.
Also technically old.
Yeah.
Well, so Old English is really different, because Old English, like,
I just mean old in the sense of what old is.
So the syntax is different, and the way sentence structures are done are different, right?
Yeah.
But if you're going to then mess with the story, it's like insisting on having Shakespearean dialogue in movies that are not set in that time period. You're like, we don't need this. We get it. You're an actor and you've learned how to say all of the words, but you don't have to have it while you're driving your car down the freeway, right? And in
also,
this,
so the thing is also, though, that I think the dialogue isn't even weird in the way that Middle English is weird. No. Like, I could see it being a fun touch, right? If, for example, they decided, and I've seen some translations that do this, they decided to like have a lot of alliteration like a recognition of the fact that it's an alliterative meter. But they don't even do that. It's just like they make the dialogue just sort of confusing, but it's not confusing in the way that Middle English is confusing.
But see, that's what I was saying, is they've gone from it being confusing because it's in Middle English to it's confusing for the sake of it being confusing.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I was chatting to somebody about this yesterday, and I asked him about it. It was like, how much does King Arthur know at the beginning? And depending on which scene it is, he either seems to know all about what's going on, and he's reminding Gawain it's a game, and this is the rules, and you adhere to the rules. But then he's also shocked and confused by it. So, and
I'm okay with a film, and I'm okay with a film that doesn't resolve every little thing. But I feel like I want to have maybe more answers than questions, as opposed to like, I feel like I have 0 answers and an immense amount of questions.
And I feel like it was made in such a way that anyone who says they didn't really like it, they've built it so that they're primed to respond. Well, you just
don't get it.
You didn't get it. It's just
I swear to God.
So
if I hear one more person, right, there's a movie in particular, and I'm not sure how you guys feel about it, but it's called Spring Breakers. It's from 2014. And
I haven't seen it.
I detest that movie. I detest almost every scene in it.
You just don't get it,
Right. But the amount of times I have said to people, I hate that movie, and they tell me, you just don't get it. And I'm looking at them going, no, it's a really simple movie. I just hate everything about it, but I get it. I understand what they're trying for. I just hate it.
Also,
well, you don't understand the themes. No, I do.
Also, like with this movie, we're all intelligent, educated people. If we feel like we don't quite understand this movie at the end, I think that's the movie.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, all it did was pose questions. It had no answers to anything.
Oh, I understood this movie as well. The cops were setting up internal affairs, and
So yeah, I am going to settle on a 3 out of 5, but I'll be honest, like a lot of that is essentially just giving it points for at least like I kind of want to reward it for some accuracy, and that I want to reward it for doing something different.
Yeah,
like just in the sense that I would like to see more movies trying this sort of thing that are set in the Middle Ages, even if this one, in my opinion, didn't quite get there.
3 out of 5 for much the same reason that I always give 3 out of 5 to Ryan Reynolds' acting performances, because he's made some choices. I'm not really sure what they're all doing, but my God, you look pretty doing them, Ryan. So 3 out of 5.
That is actually very much this movie. So, first of all, as we finish up, would either of you like to share places a listener could find you on the internet if they so desired? Nicole, did you want to be found on the internet?
No, good luck.
Okay.
I was like, yeah, come find me on LinkedIn. Right?
Nicole is a ghost. Ollie, would you like to be found on the internet?
Sarah, I don't want to be found on the internet. And also, just need to remind people who might not have heard me tell this story. I spent 2 years reading the words LinkedIn before I ever heard it pronounced, and thought it was LinkedIn, and didn't understand it. And then when I heard somebody going LinkedIn, I went, well, of course it's LinkedIn. But I was like going, LinkedIn?
We've had some real adventures with Ollie's pronunciation on this episode.
It's because I'd only ever read it, and I was constantly getting asked, would you like to join it? And I thought it was some sort of weird educational related thing, because at that stage I was doing a master's in education. Yeah. So it was Link Ed in Institute is what I was talking. So a link to the Educational Institute, which is where, look, it was a bad time in my life, right? You can't find me on the internet, but I do a podcast at the minute with some students of mine. They're 2 16-year-old girls, and they're doing a podcast about true crime. So if you ever want to hear 2 teenagers from Ireland telling details or talking through cold cases or famous cold cases, and then every week throwing out one that's set in Ireland that may or may not be true, but if you're not from Ireland, you'll never be able to tell if it's not, because I've sat listening to them.
Just fake true crime.
I've listened to them a few times, and I've sat, like, at the end I've literally had to go, like, was that a real one or was that a made up one? You're like, well, they're never gonna know. So it's a mixture of it's either a made up story, but there'll always be like one famous story every week, like one famous cold case or even just case that has been solved or whatever. So it's called Criminal Finds, and so what's the Criminal Finds behavioral analyst students or something they call themselves, but Criminal Finds in
two truths and a lie. That's what it needs to be changed to.
Oh yeah.
I would like to do that, except then I would be representing the lie when I come in as the producer every week going, girls, you need to wrap it up. Also, stop using swear words. I have to cut them out when I edit, because teenagers in Ireland, foul-mouthed young people. I also have volunteered or was asked to do a lot of guest spots on Judging Book Covers, Megan Griffin's podcast. I know, Sarah, that Megan's been on, and you've been on that podcast a few times. So I'm going to fill in there for a few weeks while they're changing I was going to say internet provider, but they're changing networks and all that sort of shenanigans. So you can come and listen to me talking about it seems like it's going to be young adult novels that Americans have read a lot of back in the 80s and 90s, and I never did. So I'm going to be catching up on them. So I'll be reading some R.L. Stein and some
fun.
And some what's the other guy? Christopher Pike.
Oh yeah.
Like we reading some of these kind of things. So yeah, if you want to hear me talk about that sort of stuff and find them weirdly engaging in a way that I didn't think I would, so you can listen to Judging Book Covers. Yeah, that's about it.
All right. Yeah. And if you have enjoyed this podcast, first of all, you can actually find both of our guests for today in the Media-eval Facebook group. You can also find the podcast on pretty much your podcatcher of choice. And please do rate and review. I'll read new 5-star reviews in future episodes. Please also follow the podcast on Twitter at Media-eval Pod. And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Sarah ifft. And if you have any questions or suggestions, I'd love to hear from you via email at media.evalpod@gmail.com. So Nicole, Ollie, thank you for talking about this weird movie with me.
Oh, it was a lot of fun.
Anytime.
Sarah, before we go, can if anyone's still listening, because I'm not sure if I ever listened this late into the podcast, the Wheel of Time show is on Prime at the minute, and I was going to say support it, give it the views, but it's the #1 streaming show in the world at the minute, which is great. But yeah, if you could give it a watch, it's my favorite book series. The TV show is excellent so far. I like 4/5-star show. There are changes. If you go onto the internet, you will hear book purists blah 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 blah. Listen, I have read those more than is probably technically sane. I know more about those than I probably do about physics, and I have a PhD in that fucking thing. So the fact that I would gladly say that I know more about what than I do about my actual chosen profession is a shocking indictment of me. But and yet still I'm enjoying pretty much every minute in the show. They've made some changes that I don't agree on. I'm not going to go into them here, but they've also made some changes which have left me guessing. And the fact that they can have new viewers who've never watched it, or new people who've never seen the show enjoying the show, and people like myself who are jaded and can pretty much tell you everything that happens on every page of any of the books and still hold my interest 5, 6, 7 episodes in, I think it's fantastic. I know Sarah's been watching it as well.
Yeah, I've been really enjoying it.
I started watching it. I haven't read the books, so I have no idea what's coming, and I've been enjoying it.
Nice. Yeah. And yeah, I've also thought it's really good. And so stay tuned, because there will, I'm sure, be a future episode on that.
Well,
Ollie,
we're not done with the Green Knight. Remember, I have that RPG game, and we will.
Yes, that's true. So there will eventually be an update on the Green Knight. So stay tuned.
Oh, yeah, that'll be awesome. All right, guys.
Gotta watch. All right. Well, thank you all. Thank you for listening to thank you for listening to Media-eval, because I can talk today. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.